Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's all right. Checking if everything looks okay, and it does. Just gonna look at something here. Making sure everything's okay. Looking at something here before we start for a second. Okay, I guess we can start this little stream. That's interesting. I'm looking at, yeah. Good. All right, so let's start this thing. Hey everyone, welcome to everybody to the live show. We are Saturday. Now I will do one thing here. Open beer number one, as this is going to be, got a couple of beers for the show, and it is one is a special cranberry flavored beer. So this is the one. Cheers. Not bad. Tastes good, actually. So, okay. I'm still not used to the time change. I was once again this close to do the show at 4 p.m. Eastern rather than 3 p.m. Eastern because my brain is still wired for the summertime, not the change of time. So it's gonna take a few weeks for this to kick in, and it's like, yeah. Okay, so welcome aboard. This is the Shortwave live show, and we are here every Saturday at 20 hours Universal Time. This show is to promote and to have fun with the radio hobby, shortwave radio, and radio in general. This is often a solitary hobby, so what that means, yeah, we're kind of alone, and we don't usually have people around us that do this, which is quite unique and very niche in what it is. But here, we gather together, and we're able to share all of this and have fun with radio. So I hope that you guys will enjoy the live show today. My name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, northeast part of North America. And we are here to entertain. It's actually quite warm out there. We're at 13 Celsius, which is in the 50s, that's for sure. So it's kind of warm today. Supposed to be warm tomorrow too before we got to plunge again. I was looking at the long-term, snow predictions to see if anything was out there. No snow for the next couple of weeks for sure, with temperatures are too high. But I did see that by maybe November 29th, 30th, the 2 last days of November, it's not impossible we might have a little snow. So that we'll see. It's still far away. The weather has a hard time knowing what's going to be tomorrow. So when I see what they're saying for 2 weeks, I kind of just take it as, okay, we'll see. So anyways, no snow on the ground, and rather warm fall, actually. And as we're gearing up, you guys in the United States are gearing up for Thanksgiving. Here we're gearing up for Christmas because Thanksgiving in Canada was last month. So this is, of course, different from you guys. So it's nice, But because here a few friends of mine have started making their Christmas trees on Facebook. So I'm kind of getting in the mood of maybe, putting up my Christmas tree. But I like putting up my Christmas tree when there's snow outside. When it's like today, it doesn't feel like you want to put up a Christmas tree. It just feels like you want to go outside and have fun. So anyways, for the rest, there's a chat room here, a beautiful chat room with beautiful people. I think we have the best, guys around. When I say guys, by the way, it includes the girls. I got someone one day saying that, you shouldn't use just guys and so on. But for me, guys is like everyone. It's not just men, it's women. It's like they're part of the guys. It's just natural. So it means everybody. Everybody is included. And welcome aboard. And the chat room is great. People are helpful. They're really, really nice. And I say it all the time. I got the best of the best for creating a group. There's so many groups out there that I've removed myself from because I'm tired of, I call it lack of moderation, meaning that, some that are borderline idiot still continue, kind of just barely crossing the line, but just enough that it's annoying. And you get to some point where you're like, you know what? I don't need somebody like that. We don't need people like that here. And here, I think we've got the perfect mix. Everybody's polite. Everybody's nice. We, try not to go overboard. And of course, the two big rules that you have to really, really follow, and I mean follow very well, because I do not have any patience for that, is no religion and no politics. Keep these two out of here. You're going to be welcome, and that's the rules, and that's how it is, and that's why this group works well. So if you want to join in, lots of great people that will be helpful. And if you're new to the hobby, this is, I think, a fantastic place for that. We try to help you out and have fun. For after the live shows are over, of course, what do? You might start feeling lonely. I say it all the time because it's kind of weird. The feel you have when you do a live show is weird because I don't have you guys in front of me. It's not a Zoom, but you guys are out there. There's more silent people watching than people interacting, which is fine. But I have the impression of being with a crowd, even though I'm alone in front of a camera. And when I actually switch off, when I sign off from the live shows, it's always the same. It's like, it feels like I just went away from a crowded room. Because for some reason, even though it's just a chat room and, numbers of how many people watching, that interaction feels like you guys are almost here. You're not that distant from me. And that's, kind of a weird feel when you think about it. So anyways, if you find that you feel lonely after that, we have a Facebook group. Facebook group is kind of a continuation of this. It's where you can post what you're listening to. You can post anything that you want to share with others. and it's pretty active. We're more than 4,000 members on that group, and it's kind of cool because we kind of have every hour, every day, people posting what they're listening to. Some are very active, but usually you'll know a lot about what's out there. And even when I listen to Shortwave and have different stations I'm listening to, I'll take the time to post about it. And one of the things that I realize when I post on the group, and that's why it's fun to be there, is a lot of people don't realize necessarily what broadcasts are coming in, say in North America, or this week I posted, a strongest signal, and look, one of the strongest signals of Radio Thailand I've ever received on 13750, and I got several comments of, "Wow, thanks! I didn't know the broadcast existed. I didn't know that station was there. Thanks for the tip." And this is why interaction is great, because there's a lot of people that might not know what to tune. So that's why sharing what you're listening to is important, because it will also show others, oh, okay, I can listen to that here. Or, some are more, have more interest in pirate radio. They'll post what they listen to in pirate radio. Well, oh, there's pirate radio stations. I can try that. And there's a lot of people that are kind of they just don't know what to do with their radio. It's okay, where should I tune? And what should I listen to? What's on now that I could hear? Well, by being in the Facebook group, what's nice is that you'll see people posting, and from different areas. So not just North America, we got a lot of people from around the world in that group. And people will be posting what they're listening to at a certain time. And it could give you ideas of, oh, I didn't know we could listen to Radio Romania or Voice of Turkey or, Voice of America or BBC on certain frequencies and so on. And this is helpful for that. It gives an idea to people of, oh, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try to tune in to those signals. So why not join? Same name as here, official SWL channel. And everybody's welcome as long as you answer the questions. Very important. And your profile needs to be, older than a year. Unless you can prove to us you're somebody regular here. And the reason for that, preventing trolls, because the trolls will tend to create new profiles and try to get in with, profiles that are only a few weeks old, which we do not accept unless we really know who you are. So welcome aboard, everyone. Having fun this week with radio. You guys might have seen the videos. I've played a lot with my Kenwood R5000. I had not turned it on in a long time. It's kind of fun. And of course the ICOM ICR 8500, which is right here. I didn't get to it, but I wanted to turn on this good old Westinghouse International tube receiver from 1949. And tune around the shortwave bands on it, and even maybe medium wave. But it's, the reason why I don't turn it on that much is that it doesn't have its own antenna. I have to use the Yaesu end-fed antenna on it, because the MLE30 doesn't work. The thing doesn't receive with an MLE30. There's some kind of mismatch that it just don't work, which surprises me. So it's like, okay, maybe some old tube radios have some kind of different way of, using an antenna and the antenna inputs. So it just doesn't work the same way. So the end-fed works well. But what I have to do is I have to unplug my Yaesu FTDX10, and then I use alligator clips on the connector to plug on the screws in the back of the receiver. Once I do that, it works great. It's just that, I need to take the time to do it from time to time. So, but this week there will probably be some videos on it. It's so much fun to tune around with this old receiver. I mean, it's not as sensitive as today's radio, but it's still very good. And the audio is great with those really big speakers these radio had back in the day. Just thinking that you're tuning a radio that... it's built in 1949, 1950. That's more than 70 years old. and you're like, wow, you know, a 70-year-old radio still works. The radio has 6 or 7 tubes in it, and it's in perfect shape. The owner before really took care of it because the cabinet inside is super clean. So I didn't go and check the electronics, but it's so clean that I wouldn't be surprised that somebody made work on it and changed the capacitors with more modern capacitors. Than a lot of these radios have paper capacitors that dry out, which is one of the main reasons that these old receivers, stop working at some point, because the capacitors get, they dry up, and then all sorts of problems can happen. You even have, shorts. So anyway, it's fun to have all of you guys here. Let's check out the chat room. Jay Watterson69, nice to have you on board. David's Radio Room, nice to have you here from Central Georgia. Master Players Radio and Television, nice to have you here, Bobby. WA5107SWL and Morgan City, Louisiana. Nick Hammondale, nice to have you here from Romania. Tasso V, nice to have you here. We have Robert Varner, nice to have you here from New Jersey. KC2TEL. We have RJD Dakota, nice to have you on board from Wentzville, Missouri. Brisk day, partly sunny, nice to have you here. TVDXer, ça va bien? J'espère que tu vas bien toi aussi. Nice to have you on board from not very far from Montreal, actually. Richard Wagner, nice to have you here. WA9301 SWL from Northeast Illinois, where we are on the tail end of autumn after Tuesday. And we have KU, nice to have you here. Jean Arrache, salut, j'espère que tu vas bien. Nice to have you on board. 54 Cal, nice to have you here. Jerry Hart, nice to have you here. 54 Cal from Northwest Pennsylvania. Joseph, nice to have you on board from the San Francisco Bay Area, California. So pretty cool to have you here. Valtz from Latvia, nice to have you on board. And says, any success with 6 meters over the past weeks? YL is trying to work VO2AC and VO2LAB since they give us hard to get CQ zones. I looked a few times, but I haven't heard anything the times that I've tuned in. But I have barely looked at what sound. I did hear the one or two times I did hear some VE2 stations calling CQ. So maybe they were hearing stuff, because I could see that one in particular. There's a guy that isn't very far from here. Where I live, if we just take the corner street here and go west, he's almost at the same level I am on one of the avenues. And he's, walking distance, maybe 25 minutes away. And he has, I did pass by there one day, and he's got one of these big fancy antennas on his roof. And I see him calling CQ every single day on 6 meters. Actually, one time I did make a contact with him just to say, like, hey, I'm here too. And he seems to hear a lot of stuff, because I see him replying to stations I just don't get. So he seems to be well placed for 6 meter contacts. Dinfrin Gear TV, nice to have you on board. Matt, MDK2, nice to have you here from Denver, Colorado. And so if you're at 53 Fahrenheit, 11.5 or so, we're at probably 56, 57 here at 13. Brad Shaver, nice to have you here. SWL Signals 23, nice to have you on board from West Coast of Florida. So says shout out to Paul the Cat. He's sleeping in the living room in the sunshine, keeping warm. Mike WX50, nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. Tim Warley, nice to have you here from the UK. KU, happy Saturday, nice to have you on board. It's nice to be here, and I appreciate you guys being here too. Chuck Schreiber, nice to have you on board, and in 5KVO from sunny South Texas. Kamikaze76, nice to have you on board from West Michigan. Glenn Danzler, nice to have you here from cold South Carolina. Matt says, today is my dad's 90th birthday, so if folks can give me some greetings to pass along to him, I'd appreciate it. We'll be leaving about 23:30 UT to go to dinner with him. Wow, this is cool. Congratulations. 90th birthday. That's really, really cool. Christophe Chalutier, nice to have you on board. Bonjour et bienvenue de la France. J'espère que vous allez bien. Nice to have you on board. 57 Steve DX1, nice to have you here from Southeast Georgia. We have Darren Rogers, nice to have you here. Kamikaze, yeah, you know, it's simple. Just live in UTC time, and it's always the same. So, Brad needs a beer. Andrew Ross, nice to have you on board from South Devon, England. Nice to have you here. Glenn Danzer says, cold South Carolina, 64 Fahrenheit. Tim Warley says 8 degrees where he is. Paul Hashwin, nice to have you here from Poland. Pretty cool. SWAT Cuts, nice to have you here, and thank you for the tip. Really nice to have you on board. We have Matt says started already his Christmas shopping because at this stage I know the wisdom of getting that out of the way early. Yeah. I'm always the last minute guy. Every single year. When I used to, because there's not a lot happening at Christmas anymore for me. I used to have the Christmas Eve party here with all the family and friends, and we were like a lot of people, and you know it was kind of fun and everything. But I might sound a little, a little weird, but when the pandemic happened and we couldn't gather for Christmas, I kind of found it not that bad to enjoy Christmas just with 1 or 2 people and have a nice Christmas Eve with a very small amount of people rather than a big family gathering. So, my brother and my sister both have their own family, their own kids, and my sister has grandkids. So they've started going to their respective families rather than doing it here. Plus, I live on the 3rd floor, and my brother and sister are have a lot of difficulty getting up the stairs up to here. So, the only way is I would have to go somewhere. And honestly, I don't feel like it on Christmas Eve. I find it, like I said, I find it kind of nice to prepare a little Christmas Eve dinner, with some stuff that I like to do here, and a turkey and all of that, with just a couple of friends, and that's it. And I found that it's fine. I'm happy that way. So kind of gone are the days of the good old Christmas parties, but back in the day, I was always the last minute. It was like my Christmas shopping was December 22nd, 23rd, sometimes even on the 24th. So I'm always last minute on that thing. What else do we have? Let's go here. Brad Shaver, I have not decided on radio yet. They all have their false looking for a nice tabletop with SSB. DX Swinger, nice to have you here from Southeast Pennsylvania. Marvin Mutz from the Japan Islands, nice to have you on board. Just returned from visiting China. Wow, pretty cool. Brian Vandenheimer, nice to have you here. VA7VEB from British Columbia. Cold, lazy morning. Rotten Animal, nice to have you here from Toronto. You go see Taylor Swift. They're talking about it all over the papers here from the Taylor Swift concerts in Toronto. Brian Gregory, what's on 15580? I know it's an old VOA frequency. Actually, it was Voice of America that ended their broadcast at 20 UT. I was listening to the last hour on from 19 to 20 hours UTC. They had a pretty good signal. So now they're off. So the frequencies now. So it's still a good old VOA frequency from Botswana Relay. David Flotman, enjoying a new work schedule that is letting me watch live from Central Missouri. Cool. Welcome aboard. That's nice. Mike WX50, I think it's been discussed, but LR836 Radio Archangel San Gabriel 15476 off the air. I've tried the past couple of Friday nights with no luck. Yeah, no, they are off the air officially. Their transmitter has been sent to Argentina to be repaired and tuned. So I actually had some news coming out of Glenn Hauser's World of Radio. And what he says is that the transmitters are being tuned and fixed. They might actually show up on 15476 for testing from Argentina directly before they are sent back to Antarctica. So they're hoping that within a few months from now, they should have a new transmitter for broadcasting. Now, we've got to think about it because it's summer, so it's the time when they need to send it back to have it back on the air. So, but for now, don't search for it. It's off the air, and it's probably going to be for at least a few more weeks, if not a couple of months. But they're supposed to come back at some point. So we'll be checking that. I miss it. I kind of had a lot of fun tuning LR836. So 2E0SFC, Russ, nice to have you on board. Good evening. WF7I Homebrew, nice to have you on board from sunny Virginia. Had some much needed rain here last week after a long drought. Cool. What else do we have? Let's go down. Hen Freelangi, nice to have you here from Scotland. Brian Weitenheimer says some older tube rigs have a built-in 1 to 4 ballon on the shortwave input. That might be your issue. Yeah, it's possible. Because I know that these radios are very different. I remembered, the AN200 loop from Texan, which kind of you can couple with a radio, so you don't need to physically attach a cable. You can just put the antenna next to the radio, and it will amplify the signals you're listening to. Well, that doesn't work with these tube radios. When you put it near, you see that it doesn't couple. So you see that technology is different enough that, no, it doesn't work that way. It was different in the day, the way they would build their radios. So, yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of changes and a lot of differences in these radios compared to today's modern technology. Lee Belsia, nice to have you on board. SWL 1315RE, nice to have you here. We have Tarek, is nice to have you here. Tarek from Cairo, Egypt. 73, my friend, nice to have you here. 32 bits, nice to have you here, Mike. And M0GVY from the UK. Art Vandalay, nice, is here from Clearview, Ontario. Always makes me laugh thinking of Seinfeld. Art Vandalay. Bob Geis, nice to have you here. M2DET from San Diego, California. Chris Fuller, nice to have you on board. Says, got the exact same Westinghouse. It's a cool radio. Honestly, it's a cool radio. Really, really enjoy it. And I've got another one down here. Below it, there's another tube radio. All the tubes are there and everything, but it's a huge mess. It looks like crap. And I probably would need to have it, looked by some guy to see what, they could do. Actually, I have something that I would want to do this week. We have the last real radio store with an actual, repair guy that will repair all old radios. Radio Hovsep is still exists. And when I was recording the International Radio Report show with Sheldon last night, and he talked to me about a radio, a Grundy receiver that he wants to go and send to this, bring it to the radio offset shop to have it fixed. Actually, the guy apparently is really an expert in Grundy receivers, the real old Grundigs. So I told Sheldon, I said, you know what? If you go, let me know in advance, and I'll go and meet you up at the Radio Hofsep shop and store. The guy has a gazillion old receivers for sale, and he's like, it's a museum in there. So I will try, because the guy isn't always, how we should we put it? He's not always, a very smiley, positive guy. He's like, I'm hoping that with Sheldon, because Sheldon knows him a little, that maybe I could ask him to do a little video inside the store, because I'd like to show you guys what it looks like. It's just amazing, and it's really truly the last place ever that still sells radios and all of that. So anyways, we'll be checking that out. I'm trying to make a video. If not, I'll take a couple of pictures in secret and post them on the Facebook group, or even maybe make a video with them and explaining it a little bit. Richard Wagner, try a capacitor between the output of the MLA30 and the Westinghouse might be a DC level on it, pushing it into tube saturation, altering grid bias. Yeah, because definitely something must be happening, because it doesn't react to it. John, nice to have you here from Florida, the KQ4DUI. Don Royal, nice to have you on board from Sun City, Arizona. We have Chris Fuller from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Shortwave Archive, nice to have you here from Colorado. Norbert Toth, nice to have you here from Romania. And you were able to infect guys with the shortwave microbe. Haha, that's good. That's good. That's really good. The more we do, the better it is. We got to do it. Michael, nice to have you on board from New Jersey. Steve Burnham, nice to have you here from Central Pennsylvania. Shortwave Sarge, nice to have you here from Southeast New York. Nicole Phillips, nice to have you on board from the windy Lancashire, England. G6PGV, nice to have you here, Nicole. What else do we have? Andy New, M7CUN, and UK. Nice to have you here. What else do we have? Slowly getting down. Shortwave Archive. Yesterday I was decoding SSTV on 20 meters and I got a picture of Elvis saying, "You ain't nothing but an SSTV dog." CQing all the time. That's good. That's good. We should make a song with it. I can tell you that. LMSF. What microphone? Shield Wind. I don't know what you're asking exactly. What microphone I'm using? I'm using the Shure SM58, which is one of the popular microphones. And I just got a windsock. That's actually a windsock that's taken from a karaoke bar that I go to. Brian Penny, nice to have you on board from Cape Cod. So my beer du jour is actually the name is simply cran beer. Cranbeer, and I took it at a local little store here. So it's a cranberry-based beer. That's why it's kind of red. It actually tastes good, pretty good. It's a 5% ale, and I don't have the, because I changed it, so I don't have the box here to show you the brand. I don't even know if they sell them anywhere else than here in Quebec. The next one I'm going to have after that is a very standard Molson Dry. So that's pretty much what I have. So nice to have you here, Brian. My call sign, Victor Echo 2 Zulu Zulu India. David Flatman says most old tube radios had a wire loop antenna on the back versus ferrite bar antenna on newer radios, which may be why the Texan loop will not couple. Yeah, that's usually they have this like very thin, and you could see all the wire surrounding that little kind of tin. It's on some kind of a cardboard or something. It's kind of always kind of weird. Or on the back of the radio itself. Actually, this one though, this Westinghouse International actually has a loop antenna, a very long loop antenna inside, rather than one of those wired. So I don't know if on that it would work. I would have to try it somehow, because there's a very, very long ferrite in that old radio here, which is very different from all the radios of that time, which usually have what you just mentioned, kind of a wire loop. What else do we have? Jeff, N4ZHM, nice to have you here from Western North Carolina. PVM, nice to have you on board. Thank you so much for the comment. Danny Shortwave, Radio DX, nice to have you on board, my friend from Yonkers, New York. Torben Hyvenson, nice to have you here from Norway. Chris Fuller, Molson Dry is what I'm drinking now. Well, that's what I'm going to have after the cranberry one. I have a Molson Dry in reserve here. Rotten Animal. Whoops, I lost my spot. I could get that radio fixed, but I live in Toronto. Brian Penny, we have many cranberry bogs here on Cape. Sadly, no cran beer. It's pretty good. It's soft to the taste, and that I like. Rob's Radio Channel, nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Shortwave Archive. What's a frequency for a shortwave station you'll never forget? I got several in my head, actually. We have, of course, Radio Australia, like you mentioned, 9580. I've got HCJB, 9745. That's one from HCJB. What else? Well, just trying to figure out a Nigeria 7255, voice of Nigeria, is all the time. There's a few in the tropical bands also. The more I think about it, the more Radio RSA with their famous 25790 on 11 meters. It's pretty cool too, and I got a lot more, honestly. Mike WS60, I had a cranberry vodka last night, and someone told me that's called a Cape Cod. A cranberry vodka, maybe, I don't know. I don't know the names of those drinks. Sometimes I make stuff. It's like, I remember the first time that I had vodka and orange juice. I was like, well, I'm having vodka and orange juice, and then somebody says, oh, you're having a screwdriver. I'm like, a what? Like, oh, okay, that's what it's called. Okay, so I don't know. There must be a name for vodka cranberry. Which I like that. It's, you got to be careful not to drink too many of them, but I like cranberry vodka. So yeah, it is possible that it could be called a Cape Cod. Mira00111, nice to have you on board from Hamburg, Germany. Danny Shortwave says, yes, my Zenith transoceanic radio has a wire loop antenna inside. Yep. A lot of these radios were like that in the day. Yes, do pull out your radios, Rob. What else do we have? LMSF says K-index is 1. That's pretty good. Richard Wagner, 7120, Radio Tirana, 73-45, Prague. Yeah, and later on, 7345 was shared, Prague and Slovakia. Chris Fuller, KNLS used to be a good one for me. I get it from, I get it strong from the Madagascar relay in the evening. I even made a video the other day about receiving it in the 22-meter band, 13 something. So, Radio Luxembourg, 6090. Yes, that is another one. Never forget. Love that station, though. It was difficult to receive sometimes. Yeah. Yeah, and I had pretty much the crappy radios back in the day for that, so it was a tough one here, too. And, I mean, the stations were, so jam-packed close to each other. It was crazy. But, yeah, definitely. Definitely something interesting there. So, I did something this week that I posted a video about. Some of you might have seen. I've used the good old looking Shoryong radio, the R1 here, which imitates so well the good old receiver of the past. And it has Bluetooth, and I actually paired it with my PC and started going online with the Kiwi SDRs. And what I did is I went online and checked all the broadcasts that I could not hear, that is impossible to hear in Montreal, that I could tune in English, and came across, which was very interesting, Radio Pilipinas, Radio Philippines. In English, they have 90 minutes of English every day. And it's a very unique broadcast, I gotta say. So it was very strong on a Nepal Kiwi SDR. And of course, using Bluetooth, I send the audio to this radio. So it was like I was listening to the radio, but in reality was streaming Kiwi SDR. Man, it was very interesting. And there's a lot of stuff that, when we say shortwave makes you learn about things you don't know, it actually made me learn that the Philippines have some kind of rant with Hawaii for some reason, and things like that. That you never hear about these things except if you listen to stations like that. But it was it sounds like these old shortwave broadcasts of the day. It's professional and work. It's great, but it distinctly has this kind of program that is made for shortwave and is unique and very different. I enjoyed. I wanted to listen to for 15 minutes and try to tune other signals. I ended up listening to all 90 minutes of it because I found it just so cool to listen. And which was cool also is that the Nepal the Kiwi SDR, didn't seem to have any time limit. Because most Kiwi SDRs have a limit, either 30 minutes or 60 minutes, and then you can't come back until the next day. That one was 90 minutes, and I as long as I kept it alive, meaning that I'd go and click on the Kiwi SDR for activity, it let me tune for 90 minutes. So I ended up listening to 90 minutes of Radio Pilipinas, which was the frequency that was there was 17820. But what was interesting is it made me try to tune it here to see if I could hear anything. And on the Yesu, I had a faint carrier. It was there very, very faint. So I thought, if it's a faint carrier here, maybe the West Coast, and a couple of you have tuned the Kiwi SDRs on the West Coast, and somebody came back and said the one in Vancouver or in British Columbia was actually getting it well enough to listen to the program. So it means that you guys on the West Coast could easily have Radio Pilipinas. I never see it logged much here. Yet, if it's coming in a Kiwi SDR in British Columbia, I bet you guys on the West Coast should be looking at tuning in that station. 17820 was the frequency I was tuned to, but they have 3 different frequencies. So do check the schedules for Radio Philippines, because it was very interesting, and you might be surprised to get it, especially on the West Coast, for sure. Alan All, nice to have you here from Quebec, West Quebec, I would guess. West Quebec, nice to have you here. Papier Écriture, bonjour, nice to have you here. I would like to get an ICOM R9500, but having a WinRadio Excalibur Pro, do not know if it's worth getting the ICOM. Any opinion? I think you're the one that can answer that more, because these are expensive radios, and it's more in the would you like to have something like that more than anything else. Are you going to get, you're going to get more modern stuff, that's for sure, because the Win radios are a little older. But I don't know. I think that's really an option that's much more up to you. Would you like to have an ICOM R9500? Really, I think it all goes to that. I think it really all goes to that. It's a tough one. But if you got a cash, go for it. Mike WX50, I listened to that Radio Philippines with Via Nepal Kiwi SDR when I read Jill's Facebook post. Very cool. Yeah, it was very, very cool. And it's very unique, too, the way it is. And it was funny that they would go on live to the Ferdinand Marcos Jr. speeches in Filipino. And when that was over, they would come back to their English language stuff. It was kind of interesting, but it sounds so unique and interesting that now I want to tune in more. I'm going to be using the Kiwi SDRs and tune it more, for sure. What else do we have? Shortwave Archive. I can hear the Filipino language on 15190 at 18 UT. I'll have to try the English broadcast. Yeah, I'm going to give you the guys the exact frequencies, the frequencies and the time. Okay, so Radio Filipino, Filipinas. So it's 02 to 0330 UTC. Okay. 02 to 0330 UTC. The broadcast is towards the Philippines. And the frequency is, there are 3 frequencies. 9475. There's also 15640. 15640. And finally, the one I was listening to, via Nepal, and that could be heard in British Columbia, 17820, 17820. So 0200 to 0330. You should be getting maybe something, especially on the West Coast. I think you guys could be hearing that. Here it was a faint carrier, and I was imagining if it wasn't from the high noise level that I have, maybe it could have been just barely listenable here, which would have been even more fun. Craig Martinetti, nice to have you here. Danny Shortwave says, I know Philippines have maritime tensions with China because of the South China Sea. Yeah. It might be interesting to listen to it now. They're being hit by a typhoon, which is the equivalent of a hurricane in the Pacific. So maybe they'll have or see if they're on the air too. Shortwave Archive says if you click the user tab of a Kiwi SDR, it will show the inactivity timer. If it follows with 24-hour, then it's one where you have to come back the next day. So, Shortwave Archive, Radio Filipinas issues EQSLs if you want to try and get one, huh? It could be interesting. I'll be fair. I'll let them know that I was listening on the Nepal, QESDR. But yeah, that. What radio aurora for bad hearing? Do you mean why auroras are bad for shortwave? Because often they interact with the ionosphere, and the particles will destroy part of the ionosphere. No problem, Matt. See you soon. Different Gear TV has some kind of rap music on 6090 at the moment. Dance music with some singing and rap. Huh, okay. 6090. That's interesting. So I did that. I tuned around, of course, with the Kenwood R5000 on, what was it, Thursday evening? I think it was Thursday evening that I did that. Tuning around, checking out what's there. It is interesting. There's something I don't fully understand. So my Kenwood R5000 was using the end-fed antenna that I use on my Yaesu, and I can't use both together because I don't have the and then a way to split the antenna, and I do not wish to do so because I don't want to blow my Kenwood R5000 because I transmitted with the Yaesu and I didn't think about it. I do have a big antenna switch here, so maybe I should use it for that purpose, possibly. I think I should use my antenna switch to switch between, I'll be able to switch between the Kenwood and the Yaesu, which would make it easier for me to just leave it connected all the time. But the thing that I noticed is my Kenwood R5000 seems to be a lot noisier than my Yaesu on the same signals. And I wanted to, that's why I'm going to probably do that and connect my antenna switch. Because I found my Kenwood R5000 to be dreadfully noisy on every signal I was tuning. And there's several signals that I was tuning around. And I'm sure that on the Yaesu would have been easier on the ears with a lot less noise around it. So, I don't know. Is it the shielding that's not the same? I mean, it's a high-end radio. Should be shielded very well. The Kenwood is a metal case. But yet, and I have noticed that a few times before. Now, a friend of mine that played with it said that because he added the connector for a 12-volt power adapter. And he told me that he found that using a power supply, an external power supply, made the radio quieter. So could it be the noise coming in from the AC wall socket? It's noisy and it brings noise into the radio. So now I want to find a cable that I had for 12 volts and plug it on my power supply here instead to see if it makes a difference. Because this week, I'll be fair, I could say that I was not really having that much fun with the Kenwood R5000 because it's so noisy. And the same thing happens with my ICOM here, but my ICOM is on the power supply up here. And so it's very interesting. It's as if there's something not right. Yet the Yaesu FTDX10 doesn't seem to suffer that. So I'm really, really curious as to what's happening exactly. Jean Arash if you want to keep using a limited QSDR, yeah, you can use a VPN and change the IP. Absolutely. What else? Well, if you think about the radio, you can also get something like a Yaesu FT710. Excellent receiver, also incentive to get a call sign. I did something interesting this week. I'm going to show you guys. I was looking at... I found a list of all the radio receivers that Monitoring Times reviewed this week. So I downloaded every Monitoring Times with the receiver reviews I wanted to see. Receivers I own, some that I don't own, but it was a lot of fun because like I'm going to take the first one here. So I have many of them from World Radio History. Once again, if you guys don't know about worldradiohistory.com. So I downloaded on my tablet the Monitoring Times that go with the reviews that I wanted to see and read. And so like on this one, if I go in the page, the review is... just try to find a review. The review on this one was... so it was from any radios, shortwave radios, tabletops, portables, scanner radios. And I was just curious to go back and reread, what these guys think of some of these radios. Oh, and there's also the listing of shortwave broadcasts, which makes you cry when you look at those. So here, if I look at... what was this one? Sorry, I'm just going to find a page where the review is. Review. Where are you? And... yeah. Come on, where's the review? Satellite Times, I remember that. Oh, this one was the... so no, not this one. I'm trying to find a review, which I don't find. Of course. It's always like that. Okay, this one's a scanner, I think. Going too fast. Oh, this one. So here there's... yeah, this one was for the scanner review, Radio Shack Pro 62. But I have some... I downloaded the ones for the Sony ICF, Sony 600. My ICOM ICR 8500 has 2 reviews because there's 2 units that came out of this radio. The ICOM, the original 8500, has changed. The internal circuitry changed around 2000 with a different circuit. And they actually compared here in the review the original versus this one, which is the latest model. And there are differences in receive capability. It was kind of interesting to see all of those things because it was like, wow, okay, there's differences between these radios that are even in the same model, but the fact that you have a newer version of it changes some of the things. There was one, the Pro 2006 scanner. I wanted to see what they were talking about because, the Monitoring Times had a little, kind of a little flavor towards certain manufacturers. So they weren't always talking about certain radios because I guess they didn't want to hurt their advertisers. But there's a lot of different things that were in there. But it was kind of fun to see, what they thought of and how they even reviewed, and this one I didn't know. So they even reviewed the Degen DE 1103. And the guy had a portable that died. And he was looking for what's the cheapest shortwave radio with single sideband that you can get that is good enough for listening to shortwave. And he came across the DGen 11 DE1103 that he paid $44.95 US on eBay. And he's like super pleased with the radio. He's saying, wow, it's just an amazing receiver. I just can't believe what you get for the price. So all of these, I went out because I wanted to read. And as I was tuning the shortwave bands on Thursday night and listening to Radio Pilipinas, I was actually reading the old reviews of old receivers that he had. I do not agree with his ICOM ICR 8500 review, because he puts this radio in like the top-notch class of all radios. And I didn't make the video yet because I wanted to make a video when the two radios, the Kenwood R5000 and the ICOM here. I've already told you, when the Kenwood R5000 failed, I wanted a replacement. It failed in the wrong time frame, honestly, because today I realized that if it would have failed 10 years later, my Kenwood R5000 would have continued for 10 more years. I would have not purchased the ICOM ICR 500 here. I would have purchased a good SDR, because it would do the same thing with a lot more bells and whistles. I would never have put all the money in this thing. But, you know, it wasn't like that. It broke 10 years earlier. SDRs were not really much of a thing. There were some SDRs, but it was kind of, you know, a complex thing. So, just gonna WWV 25 megahertz coming in really well to Montreal. So anyways, I remember when the Passport World Band Radio had reviewed the 8500. If you'd look in one of the old ones that has both the Kenwood R5000 and the ICOM is rated 4 stars. The Kenwood R5000 was rated 5 stars. But they're not the same radio. It's tough to compare, because one of the things I did understand when I purchased the ICOM is that I'm getting into a wideband receiver. And what I mean by that's making it different is that the fact that so if you take the price, okay, the Kenwood R5000 cost $1,300 in 1989. If you take that into account, okay, in the today's price, or in 2008 price, the Kenwood R5000 and the ICOM ICR 8500 were pretty much priced the same. But they are different. The Kenwood R5000 is a long wave to shortwave desktop. It only does that. Long wave from 30 kilohertz all the way to 30 megahertz. And so, in fact, you have a circuit that is just for that part of the frequency range, which is smaller. The ICOM here goes to 2 gigahertz. It starts at 100 kilohertz, goes all the way to 2,000 megahertz. It's a very wideband receiver. So if you put the same amount of dollar, I was expecting that a wideband receiver would not perform as well, because for the same amount of dollar, you have to put a lot more circuitry and do a lot more things in it, which means you'll cut some of the circuits a little bit, because it's going to just make a radio too expensive if you make it top notch. So when I got the ICOM IC8500, I immediately noticed the difference. I tuned to shortwave and I was like, yeah, okay, it's not the Kenwood R5000. I immediately noticed. I noticed that on strong signals, you have a little background spurious signal, just barely audible, but it's there, and it's like, yeah. Circuit has a difficulty coping with strong signals with an outdoor antenna, even though it's a high-end receiver. which the Kenwood R5000 never had as a problem. So I could see the difference. But what made me go to it anyways was that it's going to be a decent enough radio on shortwave that I'm going to be okay with it. And I wanted to have a wideband. I wanted to go to VHF, UHF, and have what I've never had before, which was I want that radio to tune single sideband on the VHF, UHF range, which served me a lot because I listened to, amateur satellites and stuff like that. But 10 years later, you would have like today, you got SDRs that, are better than the ICOM because they have so much features in the software that, it pretty much beats the ICOM and are much less expensive. But, that really is the time frame. It's my Kenwood R5000 just broke down in the time frame, which was a little too early. And also, this is a discussion that is always a little animated. A lot of people don't agree with some of my personal opinion on some of the things. Like I always say that buying a used tabletop is more of a gamble than really being worth it, because today's portables and look at radios. If you're going to spend a lot of money, look at the Texan S2200X. You got a darn good radio in that, and it's brand new, and you got warranties, and it's like it's great. But I was showing how the Kenwood R5000 is a great example of why buying a used tabletop is a gamble. I mean, the Kenwood R5000, just like the Kenwood TS440, which I believe is the same receiver but with a transceiver in it, has several problems. As it ages, there's the bouncing of the keypad. That can be easily fixed, but still, there's the biggest problem of these is the dots problem. The phase lock loop loses lock, can't tune the frequency anymore. It doesn't know where it is. And fixing all of that, and the Kenwood R5000 dots problem is not, oh, well, you were unlucky. It's going to happen to all of them at some point. Probably depending on the environment where they were in and so on. Some will get it sooner, some will get it later, but at some point it will reach every Kenwood. And so this is where age tells you a lot of things. I have these people telling me, oh, I don't want to buy Chinese radios. They're going to, in 10 years, they're going to be dead. Well, I'm going to tell you, for $1,300, I do not consider that having 18 years of Kenwood R5000 was a good deal. Don't tell me that $1,300 was a good deal for only 18 years of use. $1,300, I would expect that radio to be good 25 years. So this is where, we all have our thinking of different things. And no, it's not true that the old tabletops blow the competition of today's radios. Yes, the features they have might help you, definitely. An example of that, the Kenwood R5000 has IF shift. You don't see that on a portable. And the IF shift actually definitely can help in getting that signal away from another very close signal. But these are features that are less and less useful today, because less and less we have this problem of having signals so close to each other. The only place where this really happens now is the ham bands, especially in contests. Sorry. So, it's everybody has its way, and I know some people want to have a desktop. Some people want to have one of those old desktops, and it's fine. But when you look at how expensive they are today, used, none of them are worth it. None of them. In my opinion, none of them are worth it today. And what do you get? Even the ICOM, the ICOM 8500 has a known list of issues as it ages. I haven't had yet any problem with mine, which is, what, I purchased it in 2008, so it's 16 years old. Which is, it's getting, you know what, I just realized that 16 it's almost as old as my Kenwood R5001 was when it failed. So, you know, these are like, it's getting in that age where, yeah, I don't know, maybe at some point it could happen. You know, so it's just my way of thinking is, no, these old radios are old radios. They were great in their times. They are still great if they work well and you have one today, you're going to be happy. But, you know, it has only 2 bandwidths. And if you don't have the filter for AM, you got a crappy AM filter too. That's also something you got to think of. If the person that owned it didn't change the AM filter on the R5000, you got a super wide, crappy filter, which I always found unacceptable for the price sold. And the today you'll get a Tecton S2200X that has 5-6 bandwidths, all sorts of bells and whistles, airband, looks cool, nice tabletop, brand new. And you're not going to hear on a Kenwood, an ICOM, a signal that you can't get on the Tecton. The only difference, like I said, is that some of these radios have little features and bells and whistles that, yeah, okay, you turn that little knob here and that IR shift here, and yeah, you might make it out better on that, you know, tabletop, but for what price? What else do we have? Shortwave Archive. Okay, Shortwave Archive says the other day I was listening to VOA Learning English on 15580, and the lesson was talking about the definition of budget cuts. Interesting hearing that come from VOA. Yeah, I guess somebody somewhere was frustrated and said, with all the cuts at USAGM, let's do a let's do a budget cut one. Different Gear TV, Callum the Ex-Commander is on the radio again. You might be able to make a contact again. What else do we have? Rob's radio channel, I'm not getting anything. But it's not on now. It's the 02 to 0330 for Radio Filipinas. Andy knew we tend to revere these older radios like the R5000 when the technology has come along in leaps and bounds. Yeah. Brad Shaver says, if I'm going to spend $400, I have to make the right choice. So that's for sure. That's for sure. Especially at that price. You know, when you buy a radio that's below 100, depending on your budget, you might take a chance. You know, not everybody, but you might take a chance. You might say, well, I'm going to go for that one. But at definitely at $400 or $500, you want to get something that's, you know, really, really good. SWATCats last Tuesday at crash course on fox hunting on an airplane. ELT was going off. No one helped me to find the airplane, so I found the airplane and waited for permission to gain access and turn it off. Shortwave Archive, do some radios filter out noise? I notice this when I'm near noise on medium wave, and the noise will sound stronger on my old radios versus my new radios. There's all sorts of different things that change the noise level of a radio. First of all, older, newer technologies don't use the same exact way of receiving. You know, we just talked about it, how some older tube receivers, the way the antenna input is, and so on. And yes, different radios have different noise floors depending on what you do. Some could be generated within the radio itself. It could be that one of the radios you have, the internal circuitry of the radio is noisier. So that's why it's noisier than another one. It could be just the way the radio is designed, because there are ways to cut, you know, when we talk about the MLA30, which is a magnetic loop, the reason why some type of noise is not going into it compared to a wire is the way the antenna receives. It receives the RF energy, but it doesn't receive, it receives it in a specific way where the long wire antenna will receive any type of RF coming into it. Where the MLA30 or a magnetic loop receives a part of the RF wave, not all of it, so some of the noise just isn't going in it. Plus, it's, you can rotate it because it's directional, lower the noise also. So the radio circuitry can have an act in a way and blocking a certain component of RF noise that another radio doesn't. That definitely is. And last but not least, modern radios like the Yaesu I got here, you got digital noise reduction. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, this is so cool. The digital noise reduction is so amazing. I find it cool, and it helps in some areas, but I do not find it to be a magical, fantastic thing. Why? Because you have a trade-off. A digital noise reduction makes the audio sound bizarre, and you have a choice. Less noise, but a very robotic, bizarre voice, or more noise, but a normal, natural voice. And you'll be surprised to know that on my Yaesu, out of 10 times I will use the digital noise reduction, maybe 3 or 4 times out of 10, it's going to be useful for a ham contact. It will help me get a clearer understanding of what they're saying. But only 3 or 4 out of 10 times. The other 6 times, I will have actually a clearer and better understanding of the signal with the background noise on it. Because it doesn't change the audio of that voice. It doesn't change it into more echoey, robotic thing. I think a lot of people, it's tough to talk about certain things sometimes because people tend to be offended. I posted one video talking about that. One guy said, I got to use FTDX10, you just don't know how to use it. That digital noise reduction is magic. And just by the way that the arguments he comes at is, because you paid a high price for that high-end Yaesu, you're incapable of being, fair and saying, no, it's okay in some circumstances, but it's actually bad many times. And they just can't come around to it because it's like, no, this is a high-end radio. You're wrong. I don't care. I'm the guy that's fair with all the radios. The Yaesu isn't perfect. Every radio I tested has some little something. The digital noise reduction is good in some circumstances, but many times you're actually better off without it. This is it will get better as technology gets better, but there's so many things you can't talk about without offending somebody. It's just crazy. Azazel, nice to have you here. We'll be getting the Texan S2200X in a week. Cool. You're going to have a lot of fun with that. Art Dodd, nice to have you here. K2ADC in New Jersey. Toast and Loaf, nice to have you here. Thank you, Rob's Radio Channel. Much appreciated for the donation. Chris Fuller loved the old mags. Yep, they're pretty cool. Pretty cool. So, what else do we have? Mad Reader DXer M7EIW, nice to have you here. Good afternoon. Trick Schreiber, Jill, maybe try some ferrite ring cores on the AC cord. Amazon sells sets. Yeah, maybe I should. So, because I'm curious. The Yaesu doesn't suffer from it, which if it's that, it makes me think that Yesu took the time to filter something, but the input better, or I don't know. It's very interesting. I'm very, very, very intrigued by that. Andy New, thank you for the donation. What else do we have? So what else do we have? Yeah, the vaults. Absolutely. Time does change. Time does change. You know what was a really amazing radio 30 years ago could be a very average radio today. It's, it's just amazing when you think about it. It's just amazing when you think about it. So, I noticed it. I noticed it using the radio. I mean, I could hear it with my ears. It's like my radio listening ears are become really sensitive at how receivers are today. Do they have the Kenwood R5000 in that list, Vaults? Just curiosity. I was wondering. I don't know if they ever had. Let's go here. Try to go down. Lost my spot. Okay, here we go. Tosin Loaf, is there something about DSP receivers that handle static crashes differently? I don't hear lightning like I used to on my old analog receivers. It could simply be the audio and the way that it is processed. DSP receivers do process the signal somewhat. So it might be kind of not as, it handles it differently, so you don't maybe notice it, but it's still there. Also, we got to think about what we were listening, in the day we listened a lot to the low bands. Static crashes tend to be very, very present in the 80 meter band or 60 meter tropical band. We don't go there that much because there's less signals there. So we might be in higher frequencies where we don't hear them as much also. RJ88 Dakota likes this PL330 better than the PL880. So, there's all of these things that sometimes we just gotta say it the way it is. And stop thinking that, well, because, I paid this amount of money for this radio, you must be wrong in saying that that part of that radio might not be the best. Stop thinking that I'm trying to, when I trash the Ethon 750 / Texan S2000 / Grundig 750. Oh man, the hate mail I got. I hurt people because I just said what the radio is all about, and it's not worth its money. But people take it so personally. It's like it's almost as I'm insulting you directly. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, the best. And always, that one is always the one that I love, is when somebody introduces itself on my YouTube channel with, well, I'm a 40-year-old ham and I can tell you don't know what you're talking about. When you look at what they are commenting on, then you're like, yeah, you're one of those 40-year-old hams that still know nothing about radio, and that I wonder why you got a license. That it's always like that. The important thing, is what it's like. I'll take the example. Don Royal says he loves his ICOM R71A, and You should, because I'm sure it works great. It's like if you have one of those radios. I'm not talking about it in a way that, oh, well, you should have something more modern. No. I'm sure a lot of guys still have their good old ICOMs, the good old Kenwoods R1000, R2000s, and whatever, or, they got a Drake R8. And I'm sure you're very happy with it, and it works great. And that's it. And you do not, it's not true that you need a new radio. Absolutely not. In that category of receivers, you're probably happy and you like it. And that's the way it is, The thing is, I'm more inclined to talk about those into terms of, if you're looking into buying one of those old radios, think about it simply look at the price tag. Look at how much money you're going to spend on, say, a used Kenwood R5000 that is 30 years old. That is not a radio you should pay $700, $800 for. A 30-year-old radio is an old technology, an old radio. You've got a lot of stuff today that are very, very interesting and brand new. At the limit, you're better off with an SDR than any of those radios. And that's my personal opinion. Some will disagree, but think twice before buying an old radio. But those that have these radios, yeah, they're happy with it. Absolutely. What else do we have? What do we have? RJ Dakota, usually like to listen to pirate stations, and most of them are in upper sideband. I also like going through the aeronautical stuff on 8800 to 9000. Yeah. PVM, what was the make and model of the new shortwave radio you were talking about? Texan. The new radio is the Texan. It's not. I don't have it here in the room with me. So the Texan is it's the TECSUN. So I'm not logged in. I noticed I'm not logged in the chat here. Just gonna check it out. Can I log in here? For some reason, I'm not logged in. It's on the. So, anyways, S220. Oh, here we go. Texan S2200X, and this is the receiver. This is an expensive radio, but there are as good radios a lot less expensive than that. Right now, I'm kind of in love with that one because it's kind of a big tabletop kind of radio. Richard Wagner, passband tuning, Drake R8. Yeah, the passband tuning is what Kenwood has as an IF shift. It's the same thing. Shortwave Archive, an old live stream of yours, 6-7 years, you went through all of your radios and tested them. Would you do another one of those? Yeah, it was more of a talking about all the radios. I'm gonna try to make one next week. We'll try to go do that next week. Because the live stream, I think I did 2 live streams. I had too many radios for only one. Because I had a lot of them here. I got some in the boxes because a couple of years ago I had to remove a lot of stuff here for and what happened is I put a lot of radios in boxes that are still in the boxes. I really need to take that back out. So yeah. Jim Gordon, good evening. It's full moon in Scotland, so it's full moon tonight. Special night for werewolves and Creedence and CCR fans. My WX50. My current SDR is much better receive-wise than my old radios like the Kenwood R1000, though I really love that radio. Yeah. You know, they're still fun to play with. I mean, if you still got your R1000, I'm sure that you like playing with it regularly. They're fun radios to still play with, you know. All right, Jay Dakotas, sorry to say, but my PL330 is much better than I have ever expected. Used to have a desktop set that used to drift like Battleship. Yeah, the old days. Can listen to 330 for hours, no drift at all. No, they're PLL synthesized. It's phase lock loop, so it's they're always going to be precise, no drifting. Before PLL, oh god, before we had the phase lock loop, dang, the radios were just drifting like crazy. Different gear TV. So does this mean that something like a Texan PL680 is going to have a short lifespan? No, I don't think so. Look, I got my 680 now for, it must be close to 10 years old. And I got a lot of Texan receivers 10 years old. These radios, you know, electronics, the way it works, if a radio has to fail, and that's, when I followed my electronics course, we had a lesson on the lifespan of electronics and what makes an electronics, you know, last longer or not. Of course, there's a manufacturing process. If it's badly manufactured, could be a problem. It could be the parts sources. You might have a part in it that is a crappy part from a manufacturer. But overall, and that's what we're in, when I followed this, I was 1998. Overall, it is pretty much known that wherever the electronics come from, for the most part, their lifespan is pretty much equal and follows a specific path. So whether you purchase something that costs $2,000 or something that costs $200, there is no real difference when you look at graphs in the lifespan or how long they will last. Because electronics are kind of a tough thing. Transistors are pretty good, you know, capacitors and all of that. Like I said, as long as they're chosen in a decent pool of parts where there's a minimum of quality in it. And what that curve was saying back in the day, and I'm sure it's still true today, is that if you buy an electronic device and it's to fail, it usually fails in the first 6 months. So that is always in the warranty for the most part and never costs you anything to fix. Because that's where all the defective stuff will fail. Bad manufacturing, bad parts, stuff like that, usually first 6 months. That's a really high curve. It's like something like 80% of electronics that fail, it's in the first 6 months. A laptop, a TV, a radio, and that was, and I believe it's still true. And then you have the curve where it's a slow descent of failures over time. But there was another difference with that, and it had to do with temperature. The hotter a device comes, the less it's going to work a long time. Electronics hate heat. The hotter a device, the more chances it's going to actually it's going to fail. So that's something to note. And yeah, for those that ask for the price, the Texan S2200X is $372. It actually went up in price a little bit. So it is an expensive radio. So you gotta, you gotta think about it twice before buying one of those. When you think that, Texan PL 990 at half the price, almost, will do pretty much the same job. So you gotta think about it. So anyways, the electronics will fail depending on temperature. So a device that runs hot, not a good thing. And we'll have then, after they pass the first 6 months to a year where it really has a high failure rate, usually electronics just level off and last for a huge amount of time. So I expect that even the Texan receivers we have today and so on, if you buy a portable shortwave, I've noticed it here anyways, most people that complained they had a failure on their radio was pretty quick, first year. But once you pass that first year, it just lasts. And that's for everything, So it's pretty interesting. That it was very, very interesting to look at the different curves and the different, info. What else do we have? Chris Fuller, software and firmware on some of these new radio crash, and unless you have computer experience to reflash the software. Yeah, but for the majority of radios, it's firmware, and the firmware then never really crashes much. Usually the firmware is pretty rock solid once it's out in production, in full production. It's those that have, like, the Malahite, for example, radios that have kind of a software running underneath, those are more problematic. Andy New, you can imagine how much I'm looking forward to getting my Codescend DX286. Should be here around 24th. You're gonna have a lot of fun. It's so just amazing. Chris Fuller has the DX Engineering Pro 1B. Any new? I still say the Malahite DSP2 is the best noise reduction I've ever heard. Well, it's in the same league as my Yaesu, and it does a decent job for many things. It still sounds bizarre when you listen to it, and it's not always the case that it's good to use. But in some cases, it is definitely pretty surprising. It depends the type of signal you're listening to. Pepe Katsura says next December going to buy an INRAD crystal filter 2.8 kHz for my ARR 730. You said that these INRADs were quite good. Yeah. That's another case. Like you got an AOR 7030, you're going to spend a lot of money on a crystal filter. I'd spend a lot of money on another radio. That's all up to you. Remember, it's a filter, so it means, okay, if ham stations are close together, for example, well, that other filter probably has a better slope in working and removing what's outside of it. That also means that the stock filter is probably not that great. But remember, does it serve? Think about it. Will it serve you a purpose? Is it needed because it will serve you a purpose? Because it's not going to improve anything else than just the bandwidth. It's just going to remove probably a little better anything that would be close to the signal you're listening to. But it's not going to do anything else better. So that's where, you got to think, how much money are you going to spend for it versus for that radio. Sweatcats, a magnetic loop antenna uses the magnetic portion of the radio signal. Remember, all antennas produce two fields, electrical and magnetic. Yep. And noise is more electrical. So that's why it avoids some of it. So on my DX10 digital reduction plus noise blanker on my only saver on 80 meter QRM, the setting is 1 to 4. Oh yeah, you never go above 5 on the DX10. So yeah, the one of the things that I agree on, there is a review of the FTDX10 that I was reading, and they were mentioning how the attack of the digital noise reduction of the Yaesu is too strong from the start. Because if you've noticed, we've never go above 5. Above 5, it's almost never. It's almost useless all the time. And it shouldn't be just going from 1 to 5. It means that 1 is already kind of really harsh. You know, it's already powerful. It should have been spread out. What is going from 1 to 4, 5 should have been, well, that should have been 1 to 15, you know, or 1 to 10 at least, even if you want to put a little more. Because above 5, it becomes, in most cases, useless. Peter Fensom, talking old receivers, how do you think the S2200X compares to some of the grounding satellite radios like the 650 and 800? I think they compare as well, and they even compare better in some cases, because what the S2200X has is 5 or 6 different bandwidths, where on an 800 or 650 you'll have only 2. So you will have, in some cases, better receive in some instances where signals are very close. But for me, these receivers all are in the same league. You know, apart from like the S2200X, like I say, having a few bells and whistles more because of the modern technology they have. I mean, if you have an 800 and you're not you don't want to buy a new radio, I would not go for an S2200, because the 800 is probably really good, and you already have a fine radio there anyways. Having a 800 and wanting to go to S2200X would be more in the, well, I want to have a new radio and I want to buy it. It's more in there, not you're going to have better a better radio per se. James Farley, nice to have you here from Old Bridge, New Jersey. KD2GUZ. Mini Bike Madam, or Madman, not Madam, sorry. Mini Bike Madman. I've been having tons of fun with my Hermes too. Things are amazing. WF7i Homebrew. I have 3 Kenwood HF radios, different ages stacked with noise reduction. What I noticed is that for ignition noise from car or some AC they're good or great. Other noise they can't touch. Yeah. Well, most of the noise reduction features of the older tabletops or the older transceivers mostly attack things that were from that era. Car ignition. It could be like anything that is a motor that has pulse type interference. And some had what they called a automatic noise limiter, ANL. You guys remember that? The ANL has a specific feature that a lot of people didn't understand. The automatic noise limiter is a circuit that you enable. Sorry. The automatic noise limiter is a circuit that, when you enable it, it smooths the audio. And it's made for one purpose: static crashes from thunderstorms. So people would turn on the automatic noise limiter and say, I don't see what it does. But turn it on when there's a thunderstorm or static crashes from thunderstorms. You'll see that instead of having a harsh punch every time the static crash, it smooths it out in the audio. It's still there. It's just less hard on the ears. So these are things from that they were done back in the day, you know. So you know, it's Kind of interesting, you know, to see the different technologies used back in the day for that. Vaults, if you plan to use ferrite cores, test them with nano VNA. It's very enlightening. Okay. WF7 Homebrew, and sometimes they can make this audio sound like a person is underwater gurgling. Yep. WF7i Homebrew says the TS990 has 2 different noise blankers and 2 different noise reducers, each with a knob to vary levels. If I use noise reduction, I usually have the levels pretty low and avoid distortion. Yep. Same on the Yaesu. We use the first 5 levels, and then it becomes pretty much useless. Vols, they do have the R5000 low score, but a bit higher. Yeah, it should be higher than 8500. But yeah, I don't know. But it's still, you know, if you have one, you got a great radio anyways. It's all right. James Farley, is my Kenwood R5000 every day. I have the VHF unit. It was the Radio Shack DSP40. Radio Shack. It was an audio DSP unit. Radio Shack DSP40. So this is what it was. It's rated on heham.net as 3.5 stars out of 4, which isn't bad. I got mine on sale, very, very cheap. And it has some really interesting enhancements that were useful. The best of all was the notch, the automatic notch. That thing, if you were on a ham band and some idiot ham was tuning on the same frequency as a DX target, you'd turn on that auto notch, it just boop, the tone would go away. You didn't even know there was a tone. It was magical. So there's a few things on that. If you get one of those units for like, you know, $20, get it. Because even though it's an old unit, even though it, you know, does have its little quirks and quirks, there are a few features on it that you will use even on a modern radio today. You know, one of the things that I would love on the Yaesu is, rather than having to click the notch and start fiddling and all of that, because I mean, if you hold it, it can sometimes find the tone itself, but it should just do it. I should just press notch and it should just go to boop. Here, I removed the tone. No more fiddling. I should not have to play with that. These radios should have that built-in automatic. There is a notch on the Kenwood R5000. Yeah, but you got to turn until the notch, you find the frequency of that tone. No, automatic. That's the way to go. And that little DSP40 unit, dang, automatic. And it can do it with multiple tones, not just one. So it's like, wow, just that is worth $20, honestly. And it's a nice audio amplifier too. It has, I think it's 8 watts. So if you put a good speaker at the end of it, and the amplifiers, and for the amplifier stage, you get a nice audio coming out of it. And you know what? Some of the DSP noise reduction has some effect depending on the type of noise you got. For the time and what it is, it's a pretty surprising little box. James Farley, you know, the problem I have is high noise. Yeah, that is a big problem for everyone. The tropical band. Don't hear much about these days. Yeah, indeed. James Farley, I lose memories when the power goes out for a little while. Yeah, the Kenwood R5000 had a soldered rechargeable battery in it. So your rechargeable battery probably is dead. But you'll see that, you know, be careful and be gentle with it, because that dots problem eventually will creep up even on yours. It's the time frame, I think, probably has to do with maybe the weather or the here. to give you an idea, what probably maybe helped my Kenwood develop the dots a little sooner was that for a long time didn't have any air conditioning. So here summers get hot and humid. Here July and August is Florida. It's, in the 30s, and it's very humid, very uncomfortable. That and the famous wax on the circuit board is what probably reacts. If your Kenwood is if you live in a home that's well conditioned, temperature variations are not too much, not too hot, not too humid, probably helps it stay a little longer better. RJ Dakota, each person has his or her own opinion on each of every radio, and every person has their own usage for radios. Yeah, definitely. Depends what you do, Depends what you do. Matter the Exorcist, it reminds me of a comment I had on one of my videos, 30 years listening to Shortwave. You know nothing about radio. Yeah. Jim Gordon, I'm 50 years plus the Xer, and you do know what you're talking about. I wouldn't be here. Yep. Gilles Nouveau, nice to have you here. Roaring 2020s. Long time. See you on board from Port Arthur, Texas, where Kramer Bros Terror 1340 AM has gone off for a week or two now. I guess the tapes will just run out forever via shortwave. Yeah, as long as they pay, I guess. Sweatcats, when a pilot asks me for a recommendation of VHF or HF radio for their airplane, when I say, if you Honeywell, they will say Honeywell sucks. I tell them, why did you ask me the question then? Yep. Yeah. Brad Shaver says, I look forward to the show every week. D. Scott Nathan, I'm 62-year-old ham and don't know shit. KC2CAD. WF7I Homebrew. I also have the Realistic DX100. I love that radio, but yes, it is crappy radio. But I have memories with it, and sometimes it is fun to use. I think that's what we hold on to. My DX100, how I realized today how crappy it is. But still, that's all I had. That's all I had. So back in, let's put it in context. I would have been a newbie. There would have been this guy on the internet, which didn't exist. Well, it existed, but not what we have now. In 1982, and tell me, oh, the DX100, what a crappy radio. I would not have agreed because I was on the impression that it was such an amazing thing. Today, I realize it's a crappy radio, Oh, God. Nostalgia. Yeah. Buying a radio, when I say don't try to not buy those old radios because they're not worth the prices they're sold for. At the same time, I know that some of you, look, hey, I paid $100 on eBay to get my Panasonic RFB 300, which is rather crappy. But I paid because, nostalgia kicked in. It's like I want it. I want it because I had one when I was younger. That I get. I totally get. Because, even I will fall for that. But, you got to be careful. Nicole Phillips, noisy phase-locked loop local oscillators have sidebands that create noise on signals and reduce dynamic range. Yep, radios are not all equal, that's for sure. PVN, unfortunately, there's a lot of arrogance with certain AM radio operators. Yep. Alexander Biz, what is your favorite retro portable of all time? Wow. If of what I owned, I've never really owned much portables, but I did love one that I regret so much selling for $75 in the 90s. The Panasonic, I believe it's this. I just want to make sure it's the right model. Panasonic RF. Is it this one? Yeah. Yeah. Look at that, guys. I was such an idiot. I was such an idiot. I had this radio. Go check this out. Panasonic RF 2800. I regret like you can't even imagine selling this thing at a garage sale. I mean, $75. Come on. Didn't change my life. I was a little tight in money, and I was looking at, what can I do to, sell a few things. And I sold it for $75. And today I'm like, yeah, it's like selling the realistic Radio Shack DX302. How dumb that was. I would have loved to have both of those here in my collection. I had them. The RF 2800, I remember listening to Greece, listening to Vietnam, listening to so many stations. It was a very decent radio, portable radio back in the day. Drift wasn't too bad on single sideband, but boy, man, I wish I have still that radio. So I will say one of my favorite retro portables for me would be that one. The Panasonic RF 2800. Oh, God. PVM, how much do they cost, XNS 2200X? Yeah, $372 US. It is expensive. Joe Nevros, Overcomer, you never know. They're spending money, I don't know. Yeah, Rob's radio channel. Full moon in Ireland. And concerning your question about Zoom, I'm gonna check it out. I might make a special Zoom for those that contribute to the channel near Christmas, somewhere there. By the way, if you guys love what I do, like being here, I spend a lot of time here. This is not just fun. It's not just a hobby. It's my paycheck. Got 2 channels running on YouTube. I've got a tech channel. I've got a Shortwave channel. Together, they give me a decent living. I'm not rich, but it gave me a decent living. But you know what? If you want to help out and help out in the radio fund, or even help out in pizza fund for me to, not become skinny and without any food for tonight after the show. You can use the super chat and give a little something. It's a good way to contribute to the channel, contribute to what I do. You can also send through PayPal. I'll call it the Pizza Fund here. Pizza Fund. PayPal. So just send it to the email. Send a little something through PayPal to the email that I just posted. And this will contribute to my Pizza Fund tonight. You'll be paying for my food. Because, after I do a live show, especially if it's, often 3 hours, 4 hours, it's like, you don't feel like cooking. So why not send me a little Pizza Fund here? So, it's always nice to be here. But, I have to pay the bills. I got to change the computers regularly. I got to do a lot of things to make sure that this works and have better internet than the average. It's all a lot of money I spend too. It's not just, getting money. I have to pay the bills. So thanks for your donations, guys. It's always appreciated. If you never donated, think about it. Those that don't donate because you can't, I don't ask any money for people that have a hard time, spending their money because it's like they don't have enough. It's fine. But, a lot of people do. And a lot of people, when you get people saying, well, just bought a $5,000 radio or $2,000 radio or something, it's like, yeah, a little something, contribution could help, if you like, it's always appreciated. So thank you all for donations. Thank you for the donations you've given in the past, for all of those that have donated. And think about it. Okay. What else do we have? David in Barcelona, Spain. ¿Cómo está mi amigo? EA3 IEK. SWL EA4998 URE. What else? SWAT Cats. I peeled a PLL in college. It was required. Latitude 45. Where is the best place to buy the Texan 2200X? Anonco is where you should buy it. Great service. If something's wrong, you just contact, and they have the best service of all. I'm going to share you the link here. Anonco is where you should buy any Texan receiver. Anyways, it's a Texan distributor, and they are top-notch in service and very quick. If you buy it from there, it's not going to take a month and a half. It's going to take less than a week. You're going to have the radio. It's pretty amazing. What else do we have? Cheers, Joe, with the coffee. And I just filled out my beer with my Molson beer now. So beer. Cheers. Alan Owl says, I saw a post on the Showing FB page saying that the design is done for the 100 and no more changes were contemplated, so software programming should now be moving forward. Yep. I should actually have, because they have told me that I will be getting a pre-release version. They will be sending one to me to test out the bugs before they ever release it. I think they want to have this one perfect right from the start. Already the LC90 has become an amazing radio. I am a big fan. I love the hybrid internet radio, shortwave radio thing. It's just great. So I think we might look at something pretty cool. So let me try to get as fast to the bottom of the chat room, because I'm far behind. I'm almost half an hour, guys. So I'm going quickly here, okay? 30 bits, 32 bits. Always interesting conversation when comparing old receivers to modern SDRs. Like the SDR play. I think there is some nostalgia involved. Yeah, definitely. But if I had only one radio to buy, honestly, I would buy a SDR. Because it's just too amazing. Rod Animal have two radios I rebuilt that are almost 100 years old. Wow, pretty cool. Bob's Old Record. Nice to have you here. What else do we have? Yeah, 4.7 version 4.7, which should fix what's left of the single sideband problem. And it would also have RDS on FM. That's going to be cool. Pepe Kitsu, why to buy an SDR if you can use one online? Why it not better to get a good tabletop instead? Because SDR is better than a tabletop in many ways. And you have a tabletop at home. You like listening at home. The Kiwi SDRs online are nice. But it's not your radio, and it's not what you're listening to at home. So why do you have a tabletop? Because you want to hear stuff at home on your radio. Why you want to have your own SDR? It beats any tabletop. Any tabletop. In so many ways. Having a bandwidth feature, having all that waterfall, all the details, which you don't have in a tabletop. You're missing out on tons of signals on the tabletop that you will see on the waterfall on your own SDR that you can, oh, I'm going to click here. There's something there. It's like, that's something you're going to miss. You don't see what's outside, just your tuned frequency on a tabletop. I think tabletops, honestly, are old technologies from the past. If you like them, that's fine. Some only want that, that's fine. But SDRs, kick ass of all of the tabletops. If you have a radio, it's an SDR. And that's it. And the online SDRs, they are great, absolutely, but it's not your radio. You're listening to somebody else's radio online, and you have all sorts of limits. Most of them limit you to 1 hour on each, all sorts of things like that. While having your own SDR, you can also process all of that, what you receive on your computer. You can do a band scan. You can actually have, I want to record 10 megahertz of spectrum all night. Wake up the next morning, you got this big file with everything that was broadcast during the night. All sorts of things like that even the best tabletop can't match. It's new technology and it's so much better, honestly. What else do we have? Your table has a lot of reverb that I don't hear when you talk. I don't get. What do you mean? I don't understand. Alejandro Navarro. Buenas noches from Spain. Nice to have you on board. Happy to be here again. I am using my Eddystone radio for the first time that I purchased recently. Cool. Have fun. Metallunar, I remember you showing us the FM subcarrier receiver a few years ago, but there were very few SCA broadcasts left. Do FM SCA broadcasts still exist? Yeah, they do. They do. Here, I need to find the radio. I don't know where I put it. But here we had 3 subcarrier. It depends where you live. It seems to be something used a lot by communities. Like, you know, the here what I noticed is that like the Sri Lanka community, things like that, they have their own subcarrier stations. But I think in every market there is still a few. Well, you know, is it dying? Will it die out at some point? Possibly. You know, I think if you have to do a extra audio station, might as well just get on an HD FM and go to HD 2 or 3, which for me makes more sense than subcarrier audio, because let's face it, there's not a lot of these receivers out there. I'll have to dish it out and scan again. I haven't been a long time since I've been trying them out. Vicky Pelletier, salut. Nice to have you on board. Thank you so much. Et merci pour le don la semaine dernière. Thank you so much. Peter Fensom, nice to have you here. What do we have? Toast and Loaf. It seems like my DSP receiver is almost immune to lightning noise, but there's no switch to turn it off or on. RJ Dakota, when I was a teenager, a local FM station had a subcarrier signal. It used to read the Bible for blind people. Huh, interesting. Vaults, I think your streaming PC is struggling, especially when you go into browser. Audio video out of sync. Yeah, it's possible. I noticed one thing is that there was a slowdown. So it's probably when I use certain things. But I did notice there was a lag on the PC itself. So it's possible that my PC itself had a problem on what was happening. What else do we have? David says, I got a DSP-40 on eBay many years ago. Had it shipped to Barcelona with a pair of Minimus 2.5 speakers for one of my ICR 8500 and later on the IC 7100. There is a notch on the IC 7100, works great, and has a noise blanker, noise reduction filter. They were great. What else do we have? It should be better now. Pickled says, nostalgia is a powerful drug. Yep. The RF 2800, that is very nice radio. Yeah. I wish I still had it. I regret so much selling that thing. Billy Jack's Walt America. Old radios have the look, all the knobs and meters, lights, a digital screen. It's cool, but it's just a black screen when it's turned off. Yeah. And like we said, there's nostalgia involved in there, you know. David says, I had one of those, traded for the ICF 2001. Yeah, it's a different radio. RJ Dakota had the RF 2800, was a beautiful radio. Also high fidelity, very loud. Yep. Yep. Don Royal had a RF 2600 that got stolen. That is so bad. Ever hear of the GE Super Radio? Yeah, I got one here. I got the 3 here, the GE Super Radio 3. Which is, I'm sorry, the crappiest thing that you can buy. The real good GE Super Radios are the 1 and the 2. Those were the top-notch GE Super Radios. The 3, crappiest thing you can buy. Totally off on the scale. Not really that great. Apart from good audio, nothing fantastic. The reason I bought a GE Super Radio 3, and I will bring it out at some point. I actually should make videos. I made videos on it a long time ago. Is because at Canadian Tires here in Canada, it came on sale at $69. Plus, they had taped over the box what was it called? A Grundig PE 300 or 200, a little red portable with a little analog dial for shortwave that I need to take out too. And when I saw for $69, I had 2 radios, the GE Super Radio and the Grundig little portable. I thought, okay, that's a deal. That's a good deal. I'm going to get it. But, man, GE Super Radio 3 is a crappy one. I can tell you that. Jim Gordon, I have its illustrious predecessor, the RF 2200. Also a great radio, with excellent audio and useful means of keeping fit with its weight. Yeah, they were heavy radios back in the day. Danielson, nice to have you on board. Says, think their audio issue, your audio stream is cutting in and out. Yeah, you should have, it should be fixed normally if you refresh. Don Royal says, have a GE Super Radio, nice radio. The 1 and 2 are good. Alabama Red, wanting to buy a new shortwave radio, Texan S2200 or PL501X. If you don't care about the airband, the VHF airband, you're going to save money by buying a PL501X that performs very well. If you want airband, then the S2200X, and PL501 has the most amazing audio that you can have, including stereo FM. So it's pretty cool. So that will be what makes you choose between one or the other, honestly. Joseph, after a nifty year break, I'm getting back into the Xing. I want to concentrate on the medium wave band. Any radio suggestions on a reasonably priced radio? On a medium wave band, a lot of people are very happy with that little Quartercent DX286, which has a added amplifier. You can use an external AM antenna on it. That little, if you're strictly medium wave band, it could be a decent radio to have. It's really, really nice. The Quartercent, I'm going to write it here. Quartercent DX286. I think this might be a good choice for not too much money. Carol Potch, can you post the PayPal info in the more saying? Yeah, I will. Yeah, Anna is the best, absolutely. And Onco is amazing. If you have to buy something somewhere, I gotta tell you, and Onco is great. Let me go here, go back here, 502. Thank you, Mad Reader DXer, for the donation to help keep feed Paul the cat. No problem. Extra food tonight. Vicky Petsy, we need to keep you here and to continue what wonderful hobby. And this is a message for all shortwave listeners too. Just don't give up just because it's not fashion anymore. Definitely. Definitely. You know, when somebody shows up or somebody comes and says, well, I don't hear anything and shortwave is dead. Yeah, it's not what it used to be. And it's quieter than it used to be. Dead? It's not. There's still thousands of broadcasts when you look at, you know, when you look at EIBI space. It's just that the perception sometimes is depending on where you live. Yes, in North America, you are sure that shortwave is dead. I get it. There's not a lot of broadcasters sending here. Add the noise floor to it. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's really a tough one. But depending on where you are in Europe, you guys are lucky. I wish I had what you have in Europe and all those local little private stations popping up everywhere. This is kind of cool. We don't have any of that here. So it depends where you are too. Have a great weekend, Danny Shortwave. Stay safe. John, Tampa, Florida. Nice to have you on board. PVM, where is best place to buy SDR? Depends what you want in an SDR. They're not that expensive. Two that I would, recommend personally. One is any SDR from SDR Play. These guys, and you can actually buy it in many different local distributors. Here in Canada, Radio World has SDRs from SDR Play. So this, I'm just going to show you the SDR Play, different products of SDR Play. Here we go. So this is some of the SDRs from SDR Play. They're pretty good. Are they perfect? No, but they're not too expensive and you'll have a lot of fun. Another one that I have, and they're wide band, so they go up to VHF, UHF, which is great. Another one that I have that I gotta say it performs really well, even though there are a few, things that I'm not always happy on the way that they actually treat other manufacturers and even some of the clients sometimes. The Hair Spy HF Plus is a very good one. It's very compact also. And so here's one. So you get some great little devices that are pretty amazing. And I tell you, once you get one of those, how many of you, raise your hand, say, yeah, indeed. But how many of you I've seen that do exactly what I do? That when they got their first good SDR, they've not turned on or used their tabletop radios anymore. I had the ICOM ICR 8500, but actually purchased the SDR Play RSP1A. Then I was happy to receive as a gift from SDR Play the RSPDX, which I'm using now. When I got that on my PC and started listening to shortwave and radio in general on those, my ICOM ACR IC 8500 just wasn't used anymore. I had no more interest in going to this radio because what I was seeing and what I was using was way ahead with all of its capabilities and all that you can do, the features, the waterfall. Boy. And a lot of us have gone that way. We stopped using our good old radios because the SDR became so amazing. Simple as that. So you can buy online, but you can also here I know the HRO and Ham Radio Outlet in the U.S. also has, I think, SDR Play devices. You can buy the AirSpy HF Plus through certain dealers too. They are great devices, And there's a lot more also in there. These are the one that I've used, and I use them regularly. So, you know. Spindle Twister. SDRs are absolutely true shortwave radios. Why are they not true shortwave radios? They're fun. They are radios. What's not a radio on an SDR Spindle Twister? I have an antenna plugged in to the SDR. My antenna outside. The only difference is an SDR is controlled by a PC. The buttons and the controls are on a screen. They are true shortwave radios receiving signals from the antenna outside of any kind. No different than a tabletop radio. It's just the computer's controlling it. So they are totally true SDRs. You don't know what you're talking about if you think they're not true shortwave radios. At all. You never used one, you don't know what it is. John Pickney. I have a friend of mine, an AATS 20, our receiver, as a present. Any suggestions on a third-party manual? Oh man, that's a good one. It is a little rough on the learning curve. It is a little rough on the learning curve here. That absolutely. ATS 20. What would be a good manual? Schematic. Let me think about that. Anybody has a link to a manual? I know there are some online. I've seen a few. Maybe I should take note of it and make a video of any online manuals for it too. Jerry Hart's got an AirSpy Discovery. Yeah, that's what I have in the SDR SPDX. They're great. Richard Wagner, WCLM in Chicago lost its license in '67 for having RCA subcarrier that broadcast horse races. Oh, they did a little thing that was illegal there. A little illegal stuff. Yeah. Swatcats did 2 QSL certificates for amateur radio and shortwave. Cool. That's cool. RJ Dakota, WMRY used to subcarrier Bible readings and books for the blind. Oh, that's good. That's a good use of subcarrier, though. But they could do the same with HD radio, you know. Brad Shaver, I love your opinion. You are to the point. You know, I don't add more. I don't add fluff. I don't add personal opinions that are not supposed to be there. You know, sometimes when I do a video of a radio review, I'll think about it and talk about stuff, and then I'm going to be like, that phrase was not required. And you know, sometimes I remake the video like a dozen times because I'll be like, no, don't say that. Or don't say it that way. Or, you know. Norbert taught the S2200 a huge advantage over the H501X. Powered by the traditional batteries. Yeah, and D batteries in the S2200X last a pretty long time, I gotta say. I actually use D alkalines rather than use the 18650 because they don't last enough on that radio. It could be the same on the H501X. I get a lot of comments of how long of batteries do you get on the H501X? Yeah, it's not the best battery life performer. And I think a lot of it has to do with that audio amplifier requires a lot of power to have that audio we get from it too. Alabama Red, DX286, amazing radio, absolutely. Richard Wagner, Quartercent DX286, only drawback no SSB, but a killer radio for DX, absolutely. Patrick Fitzpatrick got a DX286 this week. It is tiny. Oh, it is tiny. It is tiny. And it has a lot of sub menus that you need to, that manual that comes with the Quartercent, keep it close. Lots of little things in there. It's not, you know, it's more than it seems. Lots of features you can turn on or off within the radio. Sheila Lessard, nice to have you here from Belleville, Ontario. Nice to have you on board. Don Royal says, I've had very good service from Anonco. Yep, they are amazing. Anna is just amazing. I was pleasantly surprised when I got when I contacted Anna. I mean, I purchased all Texan radios from there and asked if I could have a review copy for the Texan S2200X. I mean, it's an expensive radio. You don't know if they're going to do it or not. And first thing she said, Joel, you know what, I'd be happy to. And actually, I wrote to her about a month ago saying, you know, I've all the videos and how I'm talking about the radio in a very positive way and everything. And the first thing she said is like, don't worry. We've seen all of your videos on the Texan S2200X. So she's like following me to see what I got to say and what I'm going to talk about on that radio. But yet, you know, I got to be fair. You know, I think I will probably never have a radio from XH Data ever again with the rant of the transceiver that is illegal. And look, I don't care. I'm not gonna. You know, you guys are here for one thing. If you want to buy a radio, you trust what I'm saying. And it's like that trust I can never lose. It would be so bad to lose trust because the radio was given to me. You know, I can't do that. It's sad, but if I have to say this thing is crappy, it's crappy. And Shoyang, you know, Shoyang's good about it because Shoyang has been telling me, well, you're fair. Meaning you don't trash the radio to trash it. The first review of the LC90 wasn't the best. The review of the R1, I think, was for them was hard to accept. But, I mean, I can't give it high notes for shortwave performance, which is rather dismal, even though the looks of the radio is the best imitation of an old-style radio I've ever seen. You know, am I going to lose my reputation for a radio that I get for free? No, I'm not. Never. Never. I will not sell my soul for a radio. You know, it's like I just had an image in my head of Homer Simpson selling his soul for a donut. I can see the devil next to me with, you know, the hot pen in flames. Sign here. Here's your radio. UTV and Ham, KD9 WNV. Nice to have you here from Wisconsin. Nice to have you here. Yeah, the AirSpy is good. AirSpy Discovery is definitely good. You know, I have to be fair. It is good. I got to take my personal feelings of what I think about who owns it and how they treat people away from the fact that, yeah, it is good. Absolutely. Matter the Xer, when I got my ELAD SDR, my two high-end desktop receivers became furniture displays. Absolutely. That's what happens for a lot of us. But SDRs don't require that powerful of a PC. If your PC is within the last 5 years, you're gonna 5, 6 years, you're gonna run it. You might not run all the features, but you're gonna run it. RJ Dakota, I don't own a computer, so SDR would be impractical. Otherwise, I'd have one probably immediately. Yeah. My WX50, I have the SDR play, but it's still play with my Kenwood RF1000 and RF4900 and so on now and then. But you know, I the same here. I mean, I will play with other radios. I mean, they're there, but the time spent on those is, you know, not as much. SDR is kind of cool, you know. Brad Shaver wants a tabletop living room. What that mean? Are you gonna have like a living room with like ICOMs and Kenwoods and Yesus and Drakes and all the tabletops that exist? That'd be kind of cool. You could turn it into a museum, charge people, make money. Mike WX50 says, bought the SDR play from Am Radio Outlet. Yep. David, I was just using my AirSpy HF Plus Discovery this afternoon. I use it with my modified MLE30 loop through Bonito multi-coupler, which I also feed my ICOM ICR 8500 and COM Radio Sierra 1. Like the portable SDRs, like the Mallet Height DSP2. With 4-inch display, anyone ever try one of those? Well, I got the DSP, the original Chinese version. Do I have it? Yeah, here. This is the original Chinese one that I got here, which is surprising for what it is, and I should actually make maybe a few videos on it. The noise reduction, once again, on this thing is amazing. I would have to plug it in to turn it on, but these are cool for being portable. Absolutely. I mean, for being portable, yeah, you can't compare. But you know, if you have a Windows tablet or a tablet that can run one of those SDRs, I'm gonna tell you, you're coming with a very, very portable SDR system with these things. You know, I mean, look, this is the AirSpy HF Discovery. This is the one. Look how small that is. Look at my hand, and look at that SDR. I mean, this thing is very small. This is very portable. With a small laptop or a tablet PC. It definitely has good performance. It's pretty amazing. Here in KFS CW marker out of California on 12695.5, good signal, West Coast Florida. Yep, absolutely. They're on until what, 23? I think 23 UT. Let's try it here. CW 12695. What is it? 12695.5. Not hearing it here. Yeah. Let's try something here. There we go. We're going to see the code there. Decoding of KFS 12695.5. There we go. Look at that, guys. CQ from KFS. QSX, so they mean they're listening on 12 megahertz. Please answer. HF channel 3. So that's using the decoding inside the Yaesu FTDX10. One thing that helps to decode, that digital noise reduction when you turn it on with Morse code or CW, definitely helps in the radio's decoding also capabilities. So CQ from KFS. So that's KFS out of California. They Point Reyes, California. They are doing these every Saturday. They have several frequencies that they broadcast on. RJ Dakota, SDR is indeed a true radio. Just its arms and legs, so to speak, are controlled by the computer. Yeah, that's it. Robert Varner works some stations on the ARRL sweepstakes. Yeah, it's going on this weekend, right? Richard Wagner has 8992 active now, which is the U.S. Air Force. John Pickney, nice to have you on board. And stay safe. Always nice to see you. Always nice to have you here. Poison Flower. Have noticed AWR have taken down the Wavescan podcast. Can it be found anywhere else now? Yeah, so AWR Wavescan, which was called before, the AWR Wavescan show was not affiliated with AWR, but because of the fact that they were on AWR also, that's why they called it such. AWR Wavescan. And what happens with AWR Wavescan is that when AWR now is only heard from the KTWR broadcasts from Guam and all the relays are gone, the show went away and it wasn't actually on the AWR Wavescan page anymore. So a lot of people thought it's gone. No, it's not gone. Now the show is going to be called simply Wavescan. No more AWR in it. And for those that want to know where it is, here's the link. The new site for all the podcasts of AWR Wavescan is right here. It's podomatic.com/podcast/Wavescan. Here's a link. I'm going to post it and the channel. So from now on, all the Wavescan shows are on this link. This is where you're going to get them. And this is where you're going to be able to listen to the latest show. If you never listened to a Wavescan show, it is a great DX show. It is amazing for its research, for going back in time, talking about old, broadcasts and old transmissions, and all the details and everything we didn't know about the behind the scenes of that history is great, and a lot more. Check Wavescan. Wavescan is just great. Love the show. It does play on WRMI and on WWCR. It is also on Shortwave through channel 292 in Europe. So if you don't want to hear a podcast but watch the show or listen to the show on Shortwave directly, that's where to listen to. So there it is, Poison Flower, the link. Glenn McEnroe, your advice on the Texan H51X was good and was the seller. Now I just need to get more signals from California. Yeah, you gotta play with it. You gotta understand also the noise floor. The biggest issue is noise. Try to find a spot that is quiet. Maybe go to a park just to test out. You'll be surprised what you can hear, honestly. WS7i Homebrew, definitely agree with Gel on the SDRs. They are really blow everything else out of the water. Just a whole different level of tech and experience. Absolutely. I mean, wow. When I got the first SDR, it's like, oh god, this is so great. Shortwave Archive, what's illegal about it? So many things. They're selling it to anyone, which shouldn't be, but also because it's unlocked. It can transmit anywhere on the VHF range or UHF range. It's a transceiver. It's illegal to own, actually. And I can't talk about it. Jerry Hart, well, they come out with the AirSpy Ranger. There's how I homebrew. I do like some of the new SDRs that come out in a portable or possibly desktop package. Those are a bit more convenient for me to use and enjoy. Yeah. Vaults, Gilles, of course, any review of SDR probably could rate the software that works with it. If you don't like something in it, might not be easy to change it. Yeah, for sure. The software decides. That's why, an SDR that is multi-software is fun. Because if you have an SDR that has several software controlling it, now you have a choice of, I like this better than that. That's why I'm going to use that one rather than that. Which is also very cool. Mark Brando, looking to travel to Australia and will be packing a Shortwave portable as always. I'm looking for a lighter and smaller form factor than the D808 or Texan 330. Airband, not a deal breaker. Wow, a lighter form factor than the Texan 330. That is, unless you want an SDR that you'll plug in somewhere there. I don't see what you could get smaller than a Texan 330. Yeah, what I have here as the radio is a transceiver with 8 watts of output power. And transmits everywhere. No block. And selling it to anyone. No need to check if you have a ham license. Simon Templar. Nice to have you here. Happy Saturday. Joseph says, oh, nice. KFS is just down the street from me. Cool. There's always that, Joseph, that feeling. If you live near a transmitter site and see somebody somewhere else, like, I'm on the other side of the continent in Montreal, and you see that something transmitted from near you is received there, there's always kind of this cool feeling to it, It's like when they were transmitting CFCX, the 6005 kilohertz outlet of the CFCF 600 here in Montreal. When I would see someone in Europe receiving it, I was like, wow, somebody's getting that signal from like not that far from where I live, and getting it in Europe, Joseph says KFS is out in Half Moon Bay. KPH is out of Point Reyes. Okay, KFS is Half Moon Bay. Okay, cool. Thanks for the correction. Patrick Fitzpatrick, DX10 acts like an SDR and receive, but it's not an SDR. It's a hybrid. The first part of the receive of this radio is an PLL analog receiver. And then the signal is transferred to a digital part of the radio, which is its software-defined receiver part. So it is a mix of the two worlds within the same radio. So the filters, the bandwidth filters, are actual bandwidth filters that are on the circuit board, like a good old PLL receiver. So they're calling the roofing filters. And you can actually add another filter to it for CW if you want. But the rest of the processing and what's happening with it is SDR. So it's really a mix. It's really an hybrid radio, which is kind of cool when you think about it. Half standard PLL radio and half SDR. So it's kind of cool to see the decoding here. I wish it would be better, though. I wish there's so many things in the decoding of this Yaesu that I would change, and I would like one that I want. Why every software does it? Why can't the Yaesu detect the speed of a CW Morse code signal? You have to kind of figure it out yourself, you know. Harold Anderson, nice to have you here from Norway, LB1NH. Different gear. Do you have one go-to radio that you take with you when you travel, or do you take two or three? I'll take something light and portable. One that I will often go to, honestly, is the form factor, little walkie-talkie form factor, the CountyCon GP7 SSB or Texan PL 368, because it does everything. It does it well. It has the ETM scan. If I had just one to pick up and go quickly, yeah, that. It's light, works. That's what I would do. If I have the possibility, I will often have more than one and bring two or three with me. What else? Shortwave Archive. I was wondering why new antennas were installed after the old antennas were dismantled years ago at the former RNW site, Netherlands. Wavescan solved that for me this last show. Yeah, there's some interesting thing about that Wavescan show. It seems like the European Marine, military, and all of that have decided that it is important to reinstall HF radios in their fleet. Somebody somewhere realized that HF is very important. So listen to Wavescan of last week. Okay, not the new one coming out today. The one of last week, which is what? November the 9th, something like that. 10th? 10th. November 10th. They are talking about how the Radio Netherlands transmitter site, is now being converted into a HF transmission site for marine and military and all sorts of things. And they added that there's a new requirement in Europe that all the vessels be equipped with HF radios. So this is a very interesting turn, and it made me realize this might be an interesting future for our monitoring of utility signals. Now, a lot of it will probably be some kind of digital mode, but I'm suspecting that there will be some voice stuff in there. Justin G, nice to have you here. When did CFCX go off the air? Oh my God. It went off the air at the same time as CFCF did. It's been a long time. CFCX, Shortwave. So according to this, CFCX CFCX was taken out of service in 1999. No, wait. I'm wrong. Okay, the 90s? Yeah, 1999. Wow. That is old. I didn't think it would last that long. Even after CFCF went off, when they became CIQC, CFCX continued to simulcast. And when that stopped, they simulcast Sequoia FM, an FM outlet. And it stopped that simulcast in 1999. Wow. It was 500 watts only in the end. So CFCX started off as Victor Echo 9 Delta radio. And it started in 1930 on 6,005 kilohertz. It had 4 kilowatts of power. It was a Canadian Marconi Corporation transmitter. It changed to CFCX in 1936 on 6,005 again. Still using 4,000 kilohertz, 4,000 watts or 4 kilowatts. But in 1963, it was brought down to 500 watts only and kept 500 watts until the end in 1999. So we've got a bit of history here. And I've never heard it. Why? Because I live too close. I never heard it. Unfortunately. Okay, what else? What else? Let's go down. Brad Shaver says, got old Radio Shack Pro 2020 portable, Pro 51. They're an analog, so if receive any signals. I had a Pro 51. I loved that one. That's a good performer. It's a pretty good one. Justin G, Baofeng radio still made. Yeah, well, it is a Baofeng, actually, what XH Data as branded as XH Data. Bob's Old Record, Texan 330. It's a damn radio. Oh, man, it's an amazing radio. SWATcats, roofing filters, the type of filter used in an HF radio receiver that limits the passband in the early stages of the receiver electronics. SWATcats, it blocks strong signals outside the received channel, which can overload following amplifier and mixer stages. Val says, if I had to guess, return of HF radios due to threats of cable cutting and actual threats of satellites. Probably. Somebody somewhere realized, whoa. Let's have more choices of communications with all that's happening with Ukraine and the Middle East, with, you know, what's happening with Israel. Somebody somewhere said, you know what? Relying on satellites and internet, maybe it's not a good idea. Maybe we should have something else. So they are rebuilding an HF fleet in Europe, which is very interesting. Mike WX50. Just go back here. Okay, here we go. How about CFRX? I logged them in 6070 and then 81. They're still on the air. CFRX is still on the air. We have actually a joke here in Canada about that, because CFRB 1010 is owned by Bell Media, and they're cutting everything. They're cutting so many stations. They're shutting down so many things. So our joke here in Canada is that the CFRX signal is unknown to Bell. They have no idea it exists. And the engineer behind it just stays shut and just like, let's not talk about it. Because if they know it exists, they're going to shut it down. Ariel Elderson, today all HF bands is down because we have had a sunstorm and it is aurora over the whole Norway. Wow, pretty cool. I will take, you know, honestly, I like shortwave and all, but I will take an evening of auroras because it's so beautiful, even if we don't have HF propagation. RGA Dakota, maybe someone else will rethink shortwave radio after that decision. So the RNW antenna will be of use rather than disassembled. Actually, the Radio Netherlands antennas have all been dismantled. What they did is take the same field, but build a lot of, I think it's quad antennas, or I don't remember the type of antennas, but they're filling the field with tons of antennas for the new type of transmissions they need to do. Because honestly, curtain antennas that are made for 500 kilowatt shortwave transmitters, they're not really important for like military or maritime transmissions. You want to have more capability, so instead of these huge antennas, how about a lot of smaller antennas that perform well, so that we can have a lot more communications going on. So the Radio Netherlands antennas were dismantled somewhere in the 90s or 2000. When I don't remember, not 90s, but when Radio Netherlands went off in 2000 something, very, very soon afterwards, all the antennas were dismantled. But the field is kept, and now it's actually all sorts of antennas popping up everywhere on the field for the new type of communications they want to do. It's very interesting. I was intrigued by that decision, and it shows that somebody somewhere probably said, sure, internets can be cut down, cables can be cut down, satellite can be, like they could just use jammers. But how about having different ways on HF, which is really cool. Honestly, somebody knows its thing there. 57 Steve, Seacrane Skywave SSB has a small form factor too, sensitive and good for travel. Yeah, but when you compare it to the size of a PL330, it's still in the same size. So I don't think, I think it was smaller than that, which is kind of hard to see what you can get smaller than that. So thanks for sharing the location of the Zeewold Netherlands transmitter site. RJ Dakota, if it's an unknown station on 6070, don't tell anyone. Yeah. Yeah, but I think the problem is not that because shooting down a satellite is a lot more difficult than jamming it. You can jam, if you know the satellite frequencies that are used, you just put a transmitter and jam the signals, and it doesn't work anymore. But you know what? It's very interesting to see that they're building that. There's a friend of mine that we were talking politics and stuff, and he's actually very knowledgeable in world events, and he was saying, according to his personal take, we're this close to World War III. And when I heard the Radio Netherlands transmitter site being used for that and reviving shortwave transmissions, I think a lot of people are kind of scared and waiting for, okay, what's next? What's next? I was mentioning to him how Iran has been a pretty fair player, meaning that, yeah, they respond to whatever threats, but what they've did makes me think that Iran they don't want to go to war. They're just responding, but they're like, no, let's stay quiet. And you know what? That's saving us of what's happening with Israel. And the problem is, it's getting more and more complex. Ukraine is getting complex. Russia is playing bad guys. North Korean soldiers are in Russia for fighting for Ukraine. Things are not looking good right now. It's pretty complicated. So you know what? There are these people out there that are saying, yeah, you know what? Let's have the maximum amount of ways of communicating, so that if all hell breaks loose, we're ready. And that's an example. That's where, you know, I look at the BBC. Have you noticed one change at the BBC? They suddenly have an increase in budget. Somebody somewhere at the BBC said, no, 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 no. Let's maintain the world service on shortwave. What we have now. Let's stop the reduction in services. We need a voice. And this is where, you know, we were talking on the International Radio Report of how Burkina Faso blocks Voice of America on its FM outlets now. And USAGM having HF, you know, shortwave cuts, shutting down transmitter sites from the Voice of America. Don't you realize that those FM outlets in a country, they're fine when you're, you know, nice with that country. So, when it doesn't work anymore, you're just pushed out. What goes through if that happens? Shortwave. You know? That's pretty interesting. RGA Dakota, if they're using HF, that makes sense, and it means there's a lot more to listen to real soon. Yep. Mike WX50 says we need HF for the upcoming alien invasion as well. No problem. I have no problem. You know what? If the alien invasion happens, let's do a GoFundMe here, and we will fund all the HF stuff. Shortwave Archive, was the increase in budget used for shortwave, or did the BBC decide to use it for something else? Nope. It's a World Service budget increase. It's not a BBC budget increase. It's a World Service budget increase, which keeps shortwave for what it is now. And who knows in the future? Who knows in the future? So some people, I think, are starting to get a little worried that shortwave is being scaled back, and are kind of thinking, well, you know what? In times when things go really bad, maybe, it's not a good idea to cut shortwave. So it's kind of interesting, you know. What's going to be what we will monitor out of this? I get a lot of people, you know, asking me, and you know, regular folks. It's like an example. My brother. My brother is, you know, an intelligent guy that, you know, understands world events, like I do, and all of that. And he always asks me. He says, "I don't see the use of shortwave or the stuff that you do." And I always tell him, I says, because you don't understand what it is capable of. It's an old technology that is not, you know, it's not old in the sense that the old technology is still capable of kicking your butt. Yeah, you block somebody here, shortwave it here, and there you go, you got a voice. So there are things that modern technology cannot beat the shortwave technology or the old radio technology. You know, it doesn't have to be shortwave. An example of that is when you look at what's happening with medium wave also. Medium wave goes far away in night. So you might not be just shortwave, but we see it with Ukraine. With Ukraine, there are several medium wave transmitters that are high powered and that are constantly not too far from the border, which means it covers a whole country. So it's not just shortwave, it's even medium wave. Jean Arash, if shortwave happens to still be relevant at one point, Canada will look like idiots. We shut down RCI and there's no chance it will ever come back on the air. Look, the RCI shutdown is an idiot decision. It is a, I said it all the time, it is a bad decision from people that just did not want to have that continue because they had to pay for it. I'm going to come back for a few seconds. Just going to check our friend here, Different Gear TV, Voice of Turkey, English, strong on 5960. Let's check it out. 5.96. They're talking about fire, but indeed, Voice of Turkey English 5960 right now on Shortwave. So Voice of Turkey English. So I'm going to come back to that, Richard Wagner. Last night I had a little talk with our friend Ricky in Calgary. I was hearing something. So Voice of Turkey 5960 kilohertz in English. So, tu sais, Jean Arrache, the big problem with RCI is that as long as it was into the Foreign Affairs Department of Canada, it had its budget and it just had, it worked. When RCI was sent to the Radio-Canada CBC, they didn't want that. They actually hated RCI. And so they sent him there and they said, you got to help these guys so they continue. So Radio-Canada, CBC were traitors, basically. They just made everything possible to shut down that Radio-Canada, that Radio-Canada International thing, and take the 16 million and a half budget that was with it and incorporate it into their own operations. So they, in fact, were, how government things are always slow? I'm going to tell you one thing. When RCI got away, they were quick like I've never seen to destroy the transmitters and antennas. And why? Because they knew that if the antennas and transmitters were still there, someone would force them to put it back. But no more transmitters. No more antennas. It's going to cost $100 million to build that. Oh, we're okay now. No more RCI. It was a bitter... it was a bitter CBC Radio-Canada fight that I will never accept, that they actually blew away RCI that way. It's so dumb. And so, that's why we need a broadcaster like Radio-Canada CBC, but we also need a broadcaster that's fair, not a broadcaster that has this hate against some part of the system or the broadcast that they have to do. So it's really sad because that's the way it was. Really a hateful decision of just go away, we don't want you anymore. And it is dumb. RCI Sackville transmitter site, they could have relayed so many stations around the world. It was one of the best transmitter sites in the world. And, unfortunately, it's gone. And, I think I have a little part of my heart that hates CBC for that reason. I like, we need a public broadcaster like Radio-Canada and all, but I have a little hate for the Radio-Canada CBC, thinking, Catherine Tate of the CBC spending millions of dollars in useless travel and giving bonuses to everyone. These bonuses plus her travels are way more than a Radio-Canada International budget. And it's like, spend our money doing crappy things rather than, It was actually told that BBC, Radio Netherlands, and many other broadcasters actually came here to Canada. You know why? We were regarded with Radio-Canada International as one of the highest rated services in the world. And you know what? We did it at 10% of the budget of the BBC and Radio Netherlands. They came here and they said, how can you just do this high quality programming on such a small amount of money? It tells you how it was efficient. Every penny was used in programs and doing the right stuff. So, all of these broadcasters were amazed. It's like, you're on the top. You're in the top with all of us, with a budget that is far from the hundreds of millions that are spent overseas. So, I do have a little hate on CBC because of that. It's obvious that it was, people that just didn't want them to be there anymore. And yeah, it is dumb and it is stupid. And not just that. As a Canadian, I might, people might say, well, you're a Canadian, so, you want to have your voice and blah, blah, blah. It's not even that. When I see people here in the chat room or in my videos on YouTube or anywhere saying, oh, I miss Radio Canada like you have no idea. Like they miss Radio Netherlands. Like they miss other broadcasters. You realize, man, the amount of people listening to us with our Canadian point of view out there, it was worth it to keep it up and keep it on the air. Oh, man. KWLN61, nice to have you here from Tucson, Arizona. Pretty cool. Richard Wagner, can anyone tell me? Yeah, so 6,000 kilohertz. I'm going to try it here. Well, probably is that. Well, I got no signal here on 6,000 right now. So 6,000 kilohertz. What time is it now? It's 2023. Just going to check something on the schedules here, because I wonder what time they start. So last night, Ricky Long in Calgary mentioned there was a carrier. So it's not Radio Havana, Cuba, what you're hearing now if you hear something, because it starts only at 0 UT. So it's not Cuba, that's for sure. There is China that could be there. It could maybe be some kind of Chinese signal coming in. But anyways, to talk about Cuba. So Cuba's transmitter site was badly damaged. Somebody said that there were only 2 antennas still holding up of all the antennas they had there. So they have to choose what they're going to use. So if you're hearing something on 6,000, Richard Wagner, it might be China. I don't know. But Cuba was there last night. The carrier is very strong. The audio was very crappy. It was impossible to decipher whatever they were actually saying. So what happened is that it was on last night. So obviously Radio Havana Cuba is trying to use one of the antennas left. Pretty much everything is gone. I tried Radio Rebelde 5025, not there. 4765 Radio Progress was not there. Pretty much all frequencies of Cuba are gone. So you might have 1 or 2 frequencies maximum at some times, but crappy audio, unfortunately. Shortwave archive. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if transmitters at VOA, BBC relays turned to crap. Would they replace it or shut it down? The TNN site has some transmitters that whine, and they're from the 70s. Yeah, they're trying to. BBC is good at keeping up the transmitters. BBC takes care. BBC has usually transmitters that are either fixed or replaced. It all goes with the budget that go with the programming and everything. You have to include programming. You have to include fixes for transmitter sites. It's a question of an amount of money. You know what's important, and that's also the other thing is you get a lot of news sources out there. People sometimes relying on only one, which is always bad. We never should rely on only one source, because if they tell us crap, we'll believe the crap they tell us because it's the only thing we listen to. We need to listen to several sources and then make our mind of what in there could be true, not true, whatever. If you remove BBC VOA from shortwave, who's going to counterbalance the rhetoric of all the other crap that's there? Because it's been noted that every time the BBC or VOA goes away somewhere, China takes over the transmitters, or their own transmitters and their own frequencies. And so we got to balance out the news. It's fine to listen to China for news, but listen to something else too. So you make your mind, like we did in the 80s. We listened to the news from Radio Moscow. We all did. It wasn't the only news source. We listened to other news too. Like Radio Canada International. And then we made our mind about whatever, which is the biggest problem today. People are making their minds off of one source. Not a good thing. Jerry Hart, look at North Carolina AM, became very valuable after hurricane. Absolutely. And actually, it was nice to have the companies join together, have AM stations that were from other providers, and say, no, we're in it together to help out. RJ Dakota AM radio in general is universal. For some things, it's more robust and reliable than FM. FM's line of sight. Yeah. Light carrier on 5960, Joseph. Who services Yukon and the Northwest Territories, and let's go for Nunavut and all of that. There's a lot of there. I'm trying to find more info. So I have somebody send me a PDF of. So okay, depends on where you want to be in that discussion, in terms of broadcasting. So there's no more, Radio Canada Northern Service. So it has to be local stuff. One of the things that's interesting there is that there's a lot of communications on HF and Yukon, Northwest Territories, Nunavut. I have a PDF that was sent to me about all the scientific teams, research teams, mining teams. A lot of them rely on HF to communicate back, and there's kind of a relay. I'm trying to gather more info to share frequencies. But in terms of news and services, local FM stations and low-powered FM stations, which means very little people have actually access to that news. So, Francis Moore, thank you so much for the donation. Much appreciated. Take care, UTV and Ham, KD9, WNV. Shortwave Archive says they also cut RCI in the early 90s, forcing an end to things like Shortwave Listeners Digest. Yeah, the RCI at the end was not what RCI was. It was a stripped down thing there. I mean, RCI from from the 80s was not that at all. Later, it was a boring thing with local CBC, and it was not the same thing. WFI Homebrew misses RCI for sure. RJ Dakota used to always listen to RCI almost every day. Glenn McEnroe, maybe they weren't politically correct, if you know what I mean. Yep. There's, you know, Shortwave Archive. I'm mad at CBC because everyone seems to love RCI and closed at Shortwave when I was 3. Yeah. Shortwave Archive heard the Radio Havana Cuba Carrier last night. Yep. Audio was almost impersonal. It was like very distorted and low. It was really bad. Shortwave dance before you leave. John Tempa, 6000, China Business Radio. Yeah, it's possible. It's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. What else do we have here? Here I'm gonna let's nostalgia a little before we leave. I'm gonna find one that is a perfect example of what it all was about. Back in the 80s, when shortwave was great, free, and fun. Canada International. I want one that is very specific that I've seen. So, and why is it hard to find what I want? Shortwave. So there's interval signal, but there is one that I heard. 1983. No, I have one. Oh, is it this one? No. It's a different one. Ah, God. I'd like to find a specific one that I had because it was very... Radio Canada International from January 9th, 1982. Let's see what's this all about. If we can let's put the...
In English on Radio Canada International's African service. We're now broadcasting on the following frequencies. In the 16-meter band on 17,875 and 17,820 kilohertz. In the 19-meter band on 15,325 and 15,150 kilohertz. And in the 25-meter band on 11,945 kilohertz. In about 5 minutes from now, you can hear the Shortwave Listener's Digest. But to begin with, it's the news.
Good evening. Poland's military rulers warned the West today that economic sanctions against the Warsaw government will only prolong martial law and bring more suffering to the Polish people. The warning was voiced at a news conference given by 4 leading figures in the military administration, which assumed power nearly a month ago. At the same time, authorities lifted censorship of reports by...
The one that I'm searching for, because it had that little sound, that little song before, which was like da 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 da. Oh man, maybe here. I think this may be where I heard it. I want to hear that part because it's just so. It brings me back in time. Canada, Radio Canada International, 85, English. And piano, okay, 85. Let's check this one. So it's all about. Nope, that is not what I wanted, and it was very loud. Sorry, guys. This was. Let's check it out. This one. Trying to find the one that I wanted, which was really, really it represented perfectly what Radio Canada was. Sorry guys about your ears. I'm just gonna lower
Radio Canada International.
Radio Canada International.
Radio-Canada International.
Radio-Canada International.
Ici Radio-Canada International. Nous diffusons vers l'Europe, l'Afrique et le Moyen-Orient sur 17 820, 15 150, 13 690, 13 650, 11 945, 9 805, 7 235, 5 995 et 5 925 kHz dans les bandes des 16, 19, 22, 25, 31, 41 et 49 mètres.
Говорит Канада. В эфире Международное канадское радио. Эту передачу можно слушать на волнах 16, 19, 25, 31, 41 и 49 метров на следующих частотах 6150, 6185, 7265, 9555, 11935, 15325 и 17820 килогерц.
Говорить Канада. Добрий вечір, шановні слухачі. Канадське міжнародне радіо розпочинає свою...
Man, that reminds me of the good old days of shortwave. Oh, God. What else do we have here? Just looking. Turnbull says visited the RCI transmitter site in the 80s, professional to the feed lines. Hardad, when I went to Dayton Amvention 20 years ago, there was a vendor selling single sideband RCMP field transmitter packs. They were the size of a briefcase. They were marked for 80 meters. Wow. Shortwave Archive, listened to an SWI Shortwave Digest episode from 82 with Ian McFarlane, and one of the Bobs from SRI was from the INR convention. Yeah, it's just wow. Sheila, wow, iconic RCI sounds, miss it. Al Mason, nice to have you here, me too. Take care, Matt, always nice to have you on board. One thing that if I had to have a regret about it, in 1983, I believe, they had the Anarch convention right here in Montreal at the Radio-Canada International CBC Tower. And I didn't go. And I'll be very fair with you. I was a young teenager, very, shut down in my little world. And I was too shy to go. And I wish I had the what I have now, the energy, the way of, the way of being I am now, which is so much different. Because what I understand is I missed out on probably something amazing that very few of you would have lived through. But, I thought about it and I felt bad about it. Because I felt like, you're a teenager, you're trying to get out there, and I'm very, very, very shut down. So it's like, trying to do things are tough back in the day for me. And I still feel bad because I'm like, yeah, you should go for it. You should do it, But I didn't. And I missed out on some of those things, unfortunately, Vicky, okay, I'm going to post you the website I got it from, okay? It's intervalsignals.net. If you guys want to be nostalgic, go here. So this is the site that I got that. And if you want to have the specific one that I just played, you go on the left and you click Canada and go down to Radio-Canada International Vintage 1995. So you'll see that. Radio-Canada International Vintage 1995. That's the one I just played. So this is the site where you're going to get tons of interval signals. And if you want to cry your heart out tonight, go there. Switzerland was asked. Switzerland. Yeah, Switzerland was kind of nice. Swiss Radio International. External. This is vintage 2000. And here we go.
You're tuned to Swiss Radio International in Bern. Stay tuned for our programs to Southwest Europe in English, German, French and Italian on 15.315 megahertz.
Swiss Radio International.
Swiss Radio International. I loved these this station too. JJ Hendo, I'm glad to at least catch maybe the tail end of Shortwave. Shortwave Archive, do they still do Anarch conventions? I don't think Anarch exists anymore officially. There used to be a lot of clubs and all of that, but I don't think Anarch exists anymore. Anarch was the Association of North American Radio Clubs. I think there's just not enough clubs left for that. Glenn McEnroe, thank you for your YouTube broadcast. See you next week. Take care, my friend. Mario DXer, you were not the only one. I was very shut down too as a teen. For me, it seems a natural thing with age that your confidence grow. Yeah, it's just sad that, I missed out on several things that were, an NR convention was like one of those major events that I should have been, but I didn't have confidence. And there's a lot of things, when you're a teenager, you feel weird. I remember like not feeling well about how I looked. It's like, it was a tough one. I was not bullied or anything in school. I was the guy that like everybody just kept quiet, but I was already, a little stocky big. So it's like, yeah, don't, what do you want? I was not, I had that little point of what the F you want if you look at me a little too intense. But I didn't have a confidence in going to somewhere with people I don't know and all of that. And it's sad because I would have been, seen the studios of CBC, Radio Canada International, things that I unfortunately will, miss out, unfortunately. But hey, it's life. You can't go back. So today I'm here. I'm compensating for all of that. Now I'm the guy that's making the events that everybody wants to see. Okay. A little self-promotion for a second before we continue. Remember, you can use the super chat. Give me a little something. If you enjoy the show today, it's always appreciated. I'm here, many hours. I do videos all week. It's my paycheck. This is my job. So helping out, it definitely helps me out also. And if you want to participate into what is the pizza fund for tonight, you can send it through PayPal at the email that you have right here. And this will contribute to the pizza fund for... so I don't, stop eating and become all small and very... You won't even see me on camera anymore. Francis Moore, nice to have you on board. Take care, my friend. It's always interesting to have you here also. Okay, so we were talking about broadcasters and all of that. This is where there's a lot of stuff that happens in our life. First day attempt coup. Yes. Last week we played the. I think it's last week we played the Albania death of the leader, and everybody was like crying. Let's check out the. Let's go here into Russia. Russia. And vintage clips. And here we have. So where is it in the list? External. Let me just check it out here. I remember seeing that broadcast of the coup attempt in Russia. So where is it? Voice of Russia. It's Radio Moscow back in the day. Coup attempt. Here it is. So here's the Radio Moscow World Service. First day of the attempt coup, 1991. And it, of course, has the famous Moscow Nights in it, too.
This is Radio Moscow World Service. At 12 hours UTC, we'll continue broadcasting in the 13, 16, 19, 25, and 41-meter band shortwave.
Take care, guys.
That's Radio Moscow World Service in the 13, 16, 19, 25, and 41-meter band shortwaves. After the Kremlin chimes on the hour, please stand by for the news and other features.
We're all eating pizza tonight, it seems. Not over yet. We're gonna hear the coup attempt. Oh man, good old days of shortwave. Here we go. Gotta remember those too. On every broadcast. Thanks, Danielson, for the donation.
This is Radio Moscow World Service. The State Emergency Committee has instructed all bodies of power and administration in the center and locally to see to it that the state of emergency is strictly observed. In the event of inability to do so, the powers of appropriate bodies of government and management are suspended, and their functions are delegated to the persons specially authorized by the committee. This is said in a statement that has just been published. According to the statement, the structures of power and management and paramilitary units acting against the USSR Constitution and laws are immediately disbanded, and their decisions are declared invalid. At activities by the parties, public organizations, and mass movements obstructing the normalization of the situation are suspended, and so is activity by the USSR Security Council, since its functions have been taken over by the state emergency.
So that was the coup attempt from Russia. Thanks, guys, for those that have sent for the pizza fund. Much appreciated. We will have pizza tonight for sure. Thank you so much for being here. And before we go, anybody wants a little interval signal to cry on before we leave? Yeah, Radio Moscow was not just with the crumbling in 1991. Radio Moscow was like really relaxed kind of broadcasts, honestly. Oh, JJ Endo, you heard the Kremlin bells in person. Wow, that's cool. That must be great. You guys remember when that little plane went into the Kremlin and landed on the Kremlin Square or something? It was like, what? How'd they... You got radars and everything, and this little plane lands there. Oh, God. Radio Tirana was very, very scary. That was one of those that was like, wow. One that I've heard, and they actually have a new, they've been using their new interval signal in a long time. We talked about Voice of Turkey. The other day, I was tuning around, and I actually heard the Voice of Turkey playing their old interval signal. I was so surprised. So this is the interval signal I was used to back in the day. No, not this one. That's not the one. Voice of Turkey, foreign, yeah. Is this one? Because, I mean, this is what I was used to.
Voice of Turkey.
That one was like, wow. For me, that sounded so exotic back in the day.
You are tuned to the Voice of Turkey broadcasting from studios in Ankara. Our English language transmissions are on the air every day between 19:30 and 2020 hours UTC on 6,055 kHz in the 49-meter band into Europe, between 21:30 and 22:20 hours UTC on 9,525 kHz in the 31-meter band into Asia and Australia, and between 23 and 23:50 hours UTC on 6,050 kHz in the 49-meter band and on 9,655 kHz in the 31-meter band into Europe and North America. The Voice of Turkey is also on the air every day between 04 and 04:50 hours UTC on 7,240 kHz in the 41-meter band into the Middle East and on 6,020 kHz in the 49-meter band into Europe and North America.
Oh, man. I even remember that part. One that I always loved when we were listening to the BBC World Service in North America is the one with the Lili Bolera tune. This is, for me, BBC. I mean, that was BBC for me. I'd hear that and it's like, oh, the BBC. with a pickaxe and a rifle. Yes, that is such a nice and beautiful, beautiful name for the interval signal of Albania. Oh man, that was some. God. So this is. Let's compare both interval signals. This is the interval signal of Radio Tirana of 1980. And this was, and still is, I believe, the one they use today. A lot softer and more beautiful. Then there's Radio Bulgaria. Not this one. Radio Bulgaria. External. That is interesting. Okay. Where is... There's some missing stuff here. The Radio Bulgaria of the day isn't the one that I was used to. This one? Here we go.
Rádio Bulgária.
Then we had what's this one, guys? Anybody know? Haha. Yeah, Radio Budapest in Hungary.
Good evening. You are tuned to Radio Budapest, Hungary. This is Anna Gulyás welcoming you to another broadcast from Radio Budapest, Hungary.
Oh, man. And before we end with our famous song, let's go to here. And this is, it's called Forward Left. I'm hungry. Radio Prague.
This is Radio Prague, Czechoslovakia.
Pretty crazy, eh? So, hey guys, I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you for the donations. We'll have pizza, so I think a lot of us are having pizza. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the donations. Thank you for supporting this channel. Thank you for just being great fans of the channel. It's a lot of fun to be here. And, well, I guess we'll be back next week at 2000 hours UTC again. Talk about radio, tune the bands, do stuff. So, we'll end with the full version of what some of you are waiting for. And it's, of course, Moscow Nights, which is, I think if anybody listened to Shortwave in the 80s, Radio Moscow particularly, this just is crazy, bringing back the feel of what it was all about back in the day. So here we go, guys. Thanks for everything, guys. It's always nice to be here. I'm gonna let the ad go through, and then we're gonna start the interval signal. Love you all. Stay safe, and let's do it again. Maybe next week is gonna be radio. I'm gonna go through my radios if you guys want to go through a lot of radios, for sure. So take care, stay safe, and see you next week. Thanks again for all the donations. It's really, really helpful. And here we go. Here we go. Radio Moscow World Service. We're broadcasting on 47 frequencies on the shortwave bands. Thanks, you guys, for being here. It's always an enormous pleasure to be here. And why is it starting again? I did it once. It's enough. Thanks, you guys, for being here. It's always a pleasure. You guys are great. And we'll never say it enough of how wonderful you guys are. So thanks. Love you all. Okay? Stay safe. I'm going to see you next week. And radio on. Okay? Take care, guys. Always a pleasure to be in your presence. And I can't log off. I guess even the computer says, no, you can't go. So let me just... Here we go. Take care, guys. Okay.